租嘅話 online 嘅。都唔通嘅，嘥落爭過我哋。
原來呢度我又揾到啦，終於。
搞咩啊？唔開嘅。
俾少時間我得唔得？唔好意思，真係好快。好，排得。咦 ，Skylar 係咪打㗎？
佢由錢走咗喎。
我哋使唔使上翻去先啊？
未起啊？
咁啊，我哋上翻去無線電5咯，好嘛？
好。
Yo，
咩啊？
你又話咩？你個 Leo 入嚟嘅？
我直播緊啦。
都唔公平。
嚇，人渣？
係啊。佢話要睇下租打嘛。
咁俾咗佢入嚟啊？入到嚟？
冇啊，咪 po 咗條 link 喺個 group 度俾佢睇啊。
我邊度拎我？
但係睇到嘅咩？
佢睇到我 YouTube 直播緊啊嘛。
咁佢而家 X 嗰度兌換咧，有得兌換冰牌㗎喎，終於。本周有60個喎，錯喎。
你有冇邊度拎我啊？Miss 西。
嚇？
你條 YouTube 拎我啊？
可以啊，你等一陣先有冇？
你要揀冰。
係啊。
揀兵啊！
攻喎我哋。點打喎我哋？
呢個使唔使騎？
係拆炮先啦，唔好理啊。
呢個地圖好似唔使騎喎，係咪啊？
呢個地圖梗係要啦。
呢個地圖真係騎。
呢個地圖先要騎啊！搞
一入個
錯咗啊！
A 之後衝到咪又背衝又成乜都齊啊！
咩圖啊？
正咩關啊？你唔識讀？
正演啊？唔知喎，唔識讀喎我知。
話冇人帶騎啊！
我有帶跳跳騎咯。我睇下點讀先。
交翻我 Miss 西啊，其實 Miss 西。
哇！頭先經過佢哋合作無間連贏啊，全贏未輸過一場之後，700幾分啊！屌你老母！
哦，700幾分啫。
700幾分啊！我諗住下次再打多鋪就應該上到1000，我諗1100咯。
得個零字啊，正零關。
我一場冇200幾分，得翻100分到嘅。
咩啊？咁我今日遲咗上嚟先4場啫。如果
開咗直播喎，你啊？
係啊，咪直播咯。
正零關啊，零正個零啊。
咪直播咯。
小心啲講嘢喎，大家嚇。
做咩啊？發生咩事啊？
呢個直播得我哋
播緊啊嘛，
自己睇啫嘛。
MV 西直播啊？
我 YouTube 嗰個直播，但係
係啊，
冇人睇到㗎，得我。
我可以令到你嘅直播
做咩？再直播啊？直播翻我直播係嘛？
我只要播，係我一播音樂咧，你個直播就冇咗版權嘅。播歌啊，
係咩？真係㗎？
真嘅版權問題啊嘛，只要播歌你就違反版權問題，因為你段片零收入㗎啦就。
我冇收入嘅喎，我本身都冇 view 嘅，冇問題啊。我哋啲自己私人用嘅啫，冇問題啊。屌，識唔識拆炮㗎？好似我咁啊嘛，咁蠢嘅。我咪拆咗炮咯，渣嘅
喂，好飄喎，碌張緊炮搞唔掂啊！
大風沙喎，你唔睇到咩？
我知啊，飄到黐咗線喎，瞄準佢都係唔中喎，可以。
我而家試下拆個窿入面嗰個鐵砂炮啊，得唔得啊？勁唔勁啊？
咁癲？
係啊，個拋物線啱啱好落到去。
難喎嗰個。
你知我講邊個嘛？窿入面嗰個。
我知兩邊左右嗰個啊嘛，嗰個鐵砂炮啊嘛，架住喺門口嗰個啊嘛。
係啊係啊。
試下咯，得嘅。
上水居民居水上。
咩叫上水居民居水上？
啊，最下一個咪長洲賓客賓州場咯。
OK。
咩啊？嗰個長洲賓客數多嚟嘅喎，搞錯咗喎。
正門有兵出咗嚟啊！
步箭隨從嚟嘅，係咪刀劍隨從啊？
睇嚟你唔明阿 Jo 同我哋講緊嘅係 pattern 嘅問題。
你又真呢個真？
調翻轉講，呢個好舊嘅咯，其實屌我懷疑係我小學嗰時已經有嘅咯。
聯盟打到2點，邊個打？
嚇！我聽啲咩啊？
我哋打緊工程，你等我食埋。
採集採到2點啦，都唔識嘅真係。
係咪嘢戰到2點啊？阿 Jo 你
都得啊，你戰。
採集隊我
係喎，要做野戰任喎，提醒咗我。
掠奪先有用喎，對於你講。
我要聯盟打到2點，跟住攞隊騎去掠奪。我升完呢隊乜春？呢隊乜春啊？升完隊馬爾他他啊，升隊老騎噶。
有料啊！幾時都話你有料。
我都話我唔搞佢，我唔叫喪，黐做。
你瞓覺喎。
但係難嘅，其實講真嗰句難嘅。
喂，我就查一下。
咁個炮兵好煩喎，係咁啊炸唔掂喎咁樣。
唔好等我來啊！唔好等我來啊！唔好等我來啊！
即刻抌，搭即抌，馬上抌。
鳩嘅都唔識抌嘅。
啊，咁嘅咩？
抌咗啦，抌翻我上嚟咯咪就係。
識玩啊！
你知道隊友喺呢邊啊，咪抌佢嚟呢邊。補下血先，陣間先。
我俾人抱大喎，我俾人抌啊！而家係，你抌我唔到，抌我唔到，
點解？
我唔中，抌我唔中。
你好，有咩幫到你 ？Hello，
有冇機打揾啊？
有聯盟打到2點。
喂，普嗰個普過嚟一屌你！嗰個普喺嗰度做乜鳩？
好啊，
唔係啊，人哋抱啊，人哋俾人抱，我哋俾人抱啊係。
係咩？原來我哋咩？
係啊，我哋俾人抱啊係，嗰個劍盾嚟啊。
有家族出字，我就邀你噶啦。
咁我成功吸引咗，我幫佢救咗佢。喂，有個鐵砂睇住啊喂。
我知啊。龜牌又真係冇咗出嚟啦，不如嗰個邊個嚟啊？啱掂喎，龜牌。
佢兇人嘅啫，龜牌。
啲頭痛喎，龜牌啊！
阿 Jo 你唔好咁樣打，你咁樣打咧，佢哋唔入㗎，因為聯盟到2點
中途可以離開，咁冇強迫你都同我打到2點噶嘛，我打到2點啫。
最慘就係佢哋嗰班人係咁諗咧。
冇㗎，佢哋咁諗，咁咪做到幾多咪打幾多。
其實南法咁貴喎，入唔到喎。
你應該打聯盟一條龍咧，佢哋就會入啊，你信唔信？
點知打極都係教官嘅你？
哎，唔記得咗，唔好意思，唔記得咗，唔好意思，記得下場有啊，係喎，死火，唔好意思，唔好意思。
瘋狂揦住盲撚耳喺度。
下場記得，下場記得，跟住又係唔記得咗，撲街，跟住俾人屌啦，開始。簡直個精神嘅一代。
一個人要連埋咗2點。
揀咩炮啊？
扮嘢嘅啫，扮嘢嘅啫。喂屌，嗰啲投火罐快啲啊！屌，個通程車推到未啊？仲未推到。
未。我對面真係假炮喎，燃燒罐咯。
哇！佢
工程車門開咗，使乜工程車啊？黐線！
兩樣嘢嚟㗎，唔關事。
呢樣嘢嚟㗎，呢樣嘢，因為我哋要打。
推到啦，推到一邊。
咁啊過去啦，我哋。
仆街係喎，
入去喎，嗱，阿冇佢就垃圾咁位喎。
走啦，匿去第二邊啦，去第二邊一匿。
我諗清咗佢就垃圾咁位先得唔得？我諗緊得唔得？
喂，係啊係啊，喂都係唔。
左邊有兵嚟㗎啦！
走啦走啦走啦走！我冇兵啊，我翻去攞兵過左邊打。工程車到咗啊！
一頂打唔中。
我要自己擒上去拆兩條炮，自己推埋架車。
好啦，係時候走啦，係時候撤退啦。
啊！
換邊換邊換邊。
一早叫咗你換邊。
我試下打唔打到佢垃圾咁位啊嘛，喺度燒唔係好掂啊。不過佢呢邊炮炸緊又。
問題三，問題三。
你覺得俾衝鋒軍民清除好唔好咧？
喂屌！
俾咩啊？
進裝備咗未先？
衝鋒軍民俾
俾邊
啊！
隊啊？
進裝備咗係俾清除。
清除。
清取唔好啦，你俾到工匠團啦，不如。
哦，其實係升波蘭翼好定係馬爾他好啊？
波蘭。
波蘭先，你哋兩隊都有嘅。
入未啊？
未啊！
自殺炮未拆喎。
攞緊兵啊，俾人面啊，老細。我攞廢兵先，我唔想攞貴兵。
得死咗個人啊！哇，垃圾咁貴啊！呢邊又頂，好煩啊！搞唔掂
好痛
啊！
啊！
邊個喺條梯度啊？我個邊個嚟啊？上啊！唔好等啊！入啊！
得我一隊就有冇人過嚟？
照入啊！照入啊！中間夾緊噶嘛，佢嗰度你騷擾大
喂，佢盾行啊！喂，佢盾。
原來我得
佢盾企喺度唔喐。
我得兩個係騎喎，弓騎，一個就係射擊有10% 係射出火箭，跟住有10% 係降低敵人嘅速度。
啊！頂個垃圾咁，我加鐵砂，我喐唔到喎個人。
死咗，死咗。
頂個垃圾咁好煩啊！守呢個彎。
好，帶啲，帶啲。
啊！頂我跳唔到佢，頂。
帶啲 BB 仔去打下新兵先，順便做埋任務。
唉，我對巴拿冇輸晒。
好啦，我對得翻2隻㗎。
唔緊要啦，都係唔係輸又贏噶啦。
好難打垃圾咁壞，呢啲轉角位好似哇！喂，我喐緊嘅喎。吓 ？OK。
呀，啲咩打死啊？
我路過擋咗佢支長弩，佢本身唔係射我㗎，本身係諗住射嗰咩冰雪㗎，我路過射死咗我跟住。
喂，租你
我頂，我頂佢個掣。
哎呀，啱開咗啊！頂。
你嗰啲打字話俾人聽啦，人哋話入組你啊，冇理佢啦。
我頂路過幫佢擋嗰支長弩啊！
我想問地下嗰個刀盾邊個嚟㗎？地下嗰個刀盾邊個嚟㗎 ？A 點嚟啊？
我打開門。
Eason 嚟啊嘛？
我打開門咩啊？我啊做咩啊？
唔係你嚟嘅咩？唔係你嚟嘅咩嗰個？
得。
係啊，我開咗門啦，做咩？
我過嚟幫你，我過嚟幫你。係
係嫖衣啊！嫖衣啊！而家好兵啊！嫖衣啊！
入唔入㗎你？
可唔可以間兵開始啊？你班仆街，唔好嘥鳩我啲時間啦！屌你老味！
單排咯，單排幫到你。
我就係單排其他4個隊友唔啱啊嘛！屌！
喂，你冇兵過嚟邊？過嚟邊？
冇兵啊！
喂，寶點攞唔到㗎 ，Eason。
呢邊隻邊啊？
另外寶點另外邊，見唔見到我？寶點另外邊啊？
呢個問題非常之好。
面啦，嚟緊啦。
咁你完咗，如果你完咗入係咪下盤有位啊？
有啊。
咩啊？你講緊咩啊？聯盟定係咩工程啊？你真係
反正解到人咪得咯。
嗱，工程就係跟阿撈仔同埋拎佢哋啊，聯盟就跟我啊
你事啊？
是但啦，你邊個打完邊個要我先咪得咯，反正我兩邊都要做。Why not both？
因為你
都想發喎，Why not both 喎？
哎呀，咪啦，打我啦，屌你撚樣！
明咗嘅，
屌你，佢抌我喎！
撚樣你都屌？
唉，真係俾人抌咗落城咯！
呢點應該踩死啊？應該。嗰個貼 game 標嚟㗎。
咩面啊？剩翻14隻開圖啊！俾翻嗰14隻我啦，仲有半袋，唔會死晒啊！
我對佢死晒啦！屌你！
哦，特朗普應該真係輸咗啦。
抵啊！
有咩證據啊？
係輸係因為郵寄嗰啲啡全部都係民主黨嘅屌，黐乸線，追翻晒啊！本來領先緊呢啲追翻晒啊！
好事嚟㗎呢啲。
有咁誇張咩？真係
有啊，勁多郵寄啊，黐乸線又多到漏啊！我屌你奶奶啊！
條梯俾人打翻上嚟喎嚇！
你即係向上噴好嘅棘手。
喂屌！一入嚟就有對騎招呼我真係。
哇！好痛！哇！打緊位，哦哟！好彩對面係盲嘅啫，唔過嚟拆炮，我射咗幾發先啊！射咗幾飛先咁喎。對面係盲佬啊！
我得翻騎啫喎，點算咧？入唔入嚟好啊？
哇！血攻啊！任射啊！
就冇啦！啊屌！隻騎俾佢整死咗真係。唉，去錯位啊真係。屌，俾人夾死咗。5分鐘唔夠打大門。保點都未有嘅情況底下。
係調下兵算啦，唔叫贏啊！我唔緊要。
只我死咗10隻波蘭，中個波入，好啦，揾到票兵。
炸呢咗位！
對老乜嚟㗎？
唔係老乜嚟㗎？我對腿矛嚟㗎。你嗰對咩嚟㗎？
得翻8隻嘅波蘭喺後面嚟緊。
咁你嗰8隻留翻大本，因為你直衝大本咯。不過都唔得啦。
依家冇咯。
有咁多騎。最
尾啦，冇啦！依家唔打，衝啊！
我要上翻城牆先打到。
直衝補點咧，補點冇乜人。
衝補點好，跟住隊友啲騎啦，唔係我。
喺晒條樓梯。
跟住隊友就。
佢啲兵喺晒樓梯度啊！保點嗰條樓梯啊！
係啊，3條喺上面嘅，黐咗線佢哋。
我屌！仆街！後面有對波。哦，死晒！
哇！佢擺咗好多嗰啲兵喺個保點度。
好多兵啊！
又盾埋又剩，屌！仲要一對騎，
點打？
行上線定下線啊？
中線，沙中線。
波蘭上線定下線啊？頂！
下線啊！
好。
佢不被佢話隻嗰個啊！
不被佢買10分重要。
我入唔到去打喎，對騎啲盾未到啊！
好啦，我衝咗啦。
嗰啲咩嚟㗎？低地啊！嗰啲咩雙刀騎唔得喎，入唔到去喎又係。
頭先我入去嗰
我對馬死咗。
佢哋都知
我跑嚟
騎嚟緊，我哋要揸流灘唔衝過去。
哇！屌你啊！我對盾矛
嚟緊，
一秒冇晒喎！屌！
但係點解會突然之間空降咗成百幾萬
有平推。
咪真係郵寄咯，佢寄咗好多兵，寄咗好多票啊嘛。
啊！插唔到佢碌炮，唉頂真啲。
冇啊！佢而家有兩個搖擺州份都俾拜登領先咗。
冇啊！如果兩個就唔得，今朝講到明一個都唔失得，一個失是但一個失都輸㗎啦。
嗯。
你稍等阿 KC 嘅回覆啊！
出隻兵好唔掂喎，隊友真係好廢喎。
喂，我點踩緊啊？
廢用咩？人哋快手咧，偷我一陣，你入去10幾，睇晒大本，係啊好咯。要火重嚟嘅，冇單挑能力好低。
屌！
哇！佢同太多揾騎馬戰啊，冇啦。
走啦，人哋都翻到嚟啦。佢改錯名啦，大內密探零花。正版010喺我度啊嘛。
佢仲有5% 票未點，除非個5% 票全係逆轉咗嘅，咁就搞笑啦。
你做乜瞓低咗？波
磨節節。
同老仔一齊走啊！冇
得打呢樣場，好難。呢樣場係2手難攻之中。仲要嘴炮啲人真係冇份。嚟緊我哋嘅產量已你哋仲究竟打上次市場份額高中國
好大膽喎，都盾啊！呢兩個。咁都咦？黐線！
可是，
你自己打乜都可以 MVP， 好啊，好波啊！
你問你就係教官定係做晒3個你要？
新兵啊！佢話
新兵我咧就係做任務個數量嘅啫。
樣唔係啊？你問翻阿祖啦。
正常人新兵都淨係做任務數量嘅啫。
個打2點，全部都係打新兵跟住。
咁就得啦，咁就戇鳩咗啦，真係。嗰個話真係戇鳩啊！
全部都係新兵嚟跟住。
唔俾人屌自己屌自己話你聽。冇問打㗎。
仲繼唔繼續啊？未嚟？
係啊，咩唔計啊？
又去做啊嘛，係咪啊？
我頭先你少話打長嘅。
未翻到啊！
混入隊啊？
估過啦。
先入隊咩？
邊個啊？邊個入隊？
混入隊啊冇。有啊真係 OK 冇嘢啦，有冇問過？
有人咩？我哋呢度得嘛？啊唔係希凡啊，係喎希凡咪去打高城啊？
係啊，冇錯。
爭啲冇嘢你添。
咁啊，你同佢哋打工城啦。
好啊，
拜。
我食完先同你打聯盟啦 ，Joe。
唔係我都要打先啦，不過
冇所謂啊。
解啲人先，爭個挑戰做埋佢先，爭2場啫，做埋嗰2場我打聯盟可以。 唔係喎
，remain unkey 啊！不過好大機會都係租巴頓贏㗎啦，而家咁嘅款。點解會變大咗個乜嘢？
咩嘢？
你個地圖啊？你講緊？
變大咗先，等先。
咁你要重開 game 啊？
我重開啊！
你仲要打開個 M 掣之後，係同你而家打緊個地圖係唔同樣嘅。我都試過一次。
你話重開 game，我哋開咗波咯
是但啦。
啱啊啱啊。
點解唔停嘅？
我唔知你意思喎，你咩話？你而家咩意思啊 ，Haven？
個小地圖變大咗咯。
你而家入到
係啊，有得教㗎。
教可以。
唔係啊，唔係你哋諗咁簡單，佢係唔知仲筆咗定咩？因為佢有陣時彈出去邊度睇其他嘢，再入翻嚟嘅時候，佢右下個小地圖，你唔放大嘅情況之下，你會見到係一撇好大嘅地圖喺度。跟住你當放大佢個 M 嘅時候，佢入面係另外一幅嘅地圖嘅顯示嚟㗎。
知咩？
我試過一次，
又係進攻條。
所以我係知。
嗯。
除非佢話唔係呢樣嘢啊，咁我就唔知啦。
而家話唔係，而家話唔係咧。
唔係喎，你
呢個明關啊，讀零字啊，講明先嚇。政治正確啊。
明啊，證明關係啊。我有同事先用呢個姓啊。
係火柴買女孩的大火柴啊，識玩啊！
買女孩的大火柴。
一齊攻左邊咧。
咁我要打車，我要推車。
係啦，大家知咗啦。
咦，對面係 Type C 嘅點解？
扮角嚟嘅咋，冇嘢㗎。
佢單排啊？
應該係。又係個態度的希望喎。我哋睇嘅頭先，好似第三啊！我哋頭先我哋打到。
好似係咁上下。
第二定第三唔記得。
哇！全部都農民嚟啊！
正啊！
黐線有冇多嘢推啊？
啊！汽車推啊！
騎兵啊！應該大進仲長咗啲。
啊！啲車俾人推撚晒，搶撚晒。
我搶咗條啊！我真放俾你啊！我驚我炸爛喺條睇最左邊嗰條。
我哋攻左邊啊！去左邊啊！
差唔多推得到嘅時候，我放俾你啊！你睇住啊
嚇！你做晒啦咩啲任務？
啊！我第三版推晒啦已經。
撈你諗住爬上去打？
要排嗰個啊！
你諗住爬上去打？
呢個筆都爛咗喎，
咁快又射嗰啲兵？
係啊，喂人搞跑。
嗰個太多的希望係冇公會，係冇家族嘅喎。
唔理佢啦，係。冇人理我。
我哋而家撈仔頂住，喂你走啦，跳。
喂，有個跌落嚟喎，
未位，啊！一嘢崩落去。
唔係喎，佢又走得到出去，咁犀利嘅。
貪心啲先，睇炸唔炸到佢兵，炸唔炸埋先。
哇！即刻少咗斬落去，之後千幾下得翻700咋。
佢呢個係點樣操作㗎？呢個
換武器唔識用喎，重甲又唔可以用火筒。
可以㗎。
我翻去補血先啊！隻馬冇血。
唔緊要啦，都係靠啲技能嘅。
剩翻幾多血啊？隻嘢我攻城塔我睇唔到幾多血。
我哋見到佢着火，睇佢着火嘅程度呀。而家頂威冇着火，冇嘢啦，我着爆。個頂威着咗火咧，真係就係爆啦！其實對兵添架車。測唔到佢炮喎，唔掂咁樣。正門出晒市民軍，兩隊兵咗一隊衛隊，黐線嘅對面人。
佢
收咗對位隊，唔使支走啊你！帶隊衛隊出嚟咁撚戇鳩嘅，
可能做任咧
係做傷害嗰個啊！
係啊，
我屌！你又俾人搶咗，
推車啊推車，冇嘢啦，
你攞咗啊！你攞咗啊！
唔係啊，佢提你推車又唔係我啊，
唔係啊！我撳咗好多次，佢同我撳咗，即係觸發咗補給點咯，我都唔知咩事。
按操定啊嘛，你唔好瞄住個寶點啊，佢 detect 埋寶點嘅會。
屌戇鳩啊！唉，邊撚過嚟啊？嗰個
冇噶啦，你只能夠講你嗰個指控嗰個經驗未純熟咯，但係要留意下，如果你喺寶點附近你撳 control 咧，個寶點唔可以喺你前面，如果唔係好容易會掂咗落去嗰個，即係個 control 個指令會變咗喺寶點。喂，有人跌咗落嚟，左邊。
我唔喺你嗰邊，喺寶點。
有個落咗嚟，兩個啊！
雙刀落嚟幫佢啊！
嚟緊，
不如我哋就衝入寶點啦，好嘛？大勁唔
但我寶點，我換咗衛隊你先講。哎呀，緊要，係咪寶點啊 ？OK 啊，
要換
我換旗啊。
騎又得，我就帶
正門一，正門好多兵啊，因為
我都可以帶騎。
哦，咁我帶隊巴拿莫佢做最多陪你。
好啊，
佢對面有騎啊，正門一入去就有騎。
唔好入住啊，Eason。
Eason 咩兵嚟啊？嗰啲
Eason 咩兵啊？
Eason 應該冇兵啊。
佢又俾人打爆咗。
正常啊，正常。
換埋兵先啦。
公騎嚟㗎嗰隊，公騎嚟㗎嗰隊。蒙古公嚟
啲兵擺
喎。
晒喺門口左邊閘咗先啦，啲兵擺晒喺門口左邊閘咗先啦。
仲有阿希凡啊，希凡咩兵？
咩啊？仲有農民兵咯。
我清場，
唔係，我哋頭先講咗㗎啦，我哋一波一齊衝入去啊！
清除打落嚟啊！佢哋
清除馬爾他遠征同埋馬爾他騎。
馬爾他遠征啊！
咪
唔好
轉啊！而家就
係啊！快啊！正門等啊！快！
喂唔推車啊屌！
唔係你推緊啊？
推唔到。
唔係啊！啱啱先 spawn 翻，而家係輪到我推。
咁你推唔推到先？推到你推啦，我哋
正門繼續有隊蒙古公騎喺度睇緊啊嚇！
我養嘅啫，我養弓嘅啫，唔使理我，唔使啦。哇！好有對。
攻旗好難搞，好啊大佬。
其實頭先佢出緊嚟嗰時已經呃佢打佢波算，我諗住打佢波由佢。
攻騎唔理佢得啦，直接衝入寶點。
係重點，佢圍住喺度射，好煩。
我巴拿莫行先食傷啊！嚟
行啊！你行啊！
入啊！
我哋跑上城牆就係點啊？跟住就
唔係啊！
唔係跟住
有隊背佬，包我行先，包我行先，有隊背佬包我行先。
行緊，你哋轉咗，
你吸傷，你清。
佢唔係啊！佢走咗啦，咁冇將。
睇唔到我哋。
係啊，走啦，入啦。
有盡中清除。
佢跑好慢喎對嘢。
我俾人捉咗啦，我衝咗㗎啦我。
咪救咗你啦！走啦喂！走啊！
起唔到身啊！寶點啊！寶點一個人都冇啊！
有
隊衛隊。同你隊衛隊似啊！直接入寶點啊！
係啊，直接入寶點。
你叫佢開翻你個 Alipay。
睇死咗寶點，得攞咗。
坐低啦，唉，真係。
呢度可以換翻啲手兵啊！
換衛隊。我驚換唔切，幫我頂住先，幫我換緊兵。
得，門口有希凡入嚟。
換好，出緊嚟。
得啦，我換咗先。
抌咗，唉！
騎啦，我換騎啦。
騎出地下，騎出地下喂。
咩啊
A 點啦，快啲 A 點。
我隊衛隊頂緊佢3隊兵、4隊兵、5隊兵啊嚇！
我清除手緊寶點。
要幫佢衝一衝，
我要翻嚟啦，
得，我開土衝佢一波。
哇！好撚到我呢騎死一半，屌你撚嘢！
我幫手好喎，守唔到喎，隊兵冇咯喎，我係
你同你一齊守緊㗎。
咁咩點啊？攞咩兵打？
唉，頂死埋啦我又。
騎
攻 A 啊！
出唔到去喎而家。
唔係啊，Haven 冇入到嚟㗎嘛。
哦，
唔係你冇
哇！佢哋打翻晒入嚟喎。
唔緊
一
要。
定㗎，一定㗎。但係問題係我哋啲人要點
嗱，其實頭先對波蘭奇邊個㗎？係咪我哋㗎？
唔係
我㗎，
你嗰度應該衝佢哋衛隊啊，直至你嗰佢哋衛隊呃咗入嚟㗎。如果你衝咗佢哋衛隊，
冇記啊，冇記啦嗰時，我第一波先要出去。
唉，
得攞到
咁你又你衝咗咧，咁啊開心啦嗰度，你定入唔翻嚟啦，跟住就
攞到 A 啊，
哦唔緊要，攞到 A 都好。
攞到 A。
不過就有啲唔抵咯，其實唔應該死嘅啲兵頭先，即係唔知應該死咁多嘅，其實不過有啲可惜啦。
低兵選啦，低兵選咪得咯，輸。
係啊，即係賺嘅，但係就即係我自己自私，即係嗰啲咩嗰啲孤寒啊，我想賺多啲啊。
OK 啊，我哋個
所以我孤寒嘅我話。
我哋依一 round，我哋依一 round 攞寶點，盡量唔好帶兵落啦，盡量唔好帶兵落，睇住啲兵數落啦。我哋依班唔好帶兵落。
啊！頂佢炮兵，
佢炮兵我先煩喎而家。
唔緊要啊，一係就我哋今次就5隊去大本啦。
到喎，到喎，到喎。
係啊。
報咗位喎。
誒，
我有啲頭痛喎，而家呢個情況，我唔得住喎。
其實左位都 OK 嘅，不過我劈爛咗中間嚿木先。
你搞清楚樣嘢女，作為阿媽就係唔知
有騎，哇！傷到極，兩隊收埋咗，哇！好陰頭啊！
喺邊度講啊？
哇！頂炮兵，好似有隊衛隊，左衛咪講錯，左衛。
淘寶買嘢係一張。
哦，3米啊！
哇！好撚多，我要攞兵。
唉，炮兵好癲啊！
唉，我死咗啦！我哋1隊、2隊、3隊。
講緊左衛啊，我過唔到嚟啊！而家
4隊、5隊、6隊、7，我哋7隊調喺成場啊！
啊，叫咗隊我㗎，你放心啊。
7隊。
梯仲未有人推啊，最左邊。
7分鐘。
要假人可以去推啊，最左邊個梯。
推啦，假人嗰啲去推啊！黐線嘅炮兵。前面都同嗰個 Eason 嚟嘅，Eason 靠右。
有。
係啊，唔好理個寶典立翻。你睇住啲騎兵啊，一衝你就推啊！佢哋全部好明顯係防大本啊！
我唔係冇推我直，唔係盡忠嚟噶，大佬清除啊。OK。哇！後面又有
啊！
黐乸線，周圍都係人。
我睇住隊盡忠咁樣俾人左右穿插。
啊！我隊兵死晒，400面都係敵。
阿希凡唔係推緊梯嘅咩？點解未到嘅仲？
我3分俾我見到俾咗個街場啊，推咗喎。
啊！
唔係啊，出面你咩寶點出面啊？
係啊，冇錯，就係寶點出面我
有人推緊，見到。
我保唔到箭喎，對位左位。
唔推嘅，冇推嘅原來佢。
哇！冇人推緊啊，我咪唔明咯。
唔係喎，
冇嘞，大鑊嘞，啲皮兵冇嘞，啲皮兵冇嘞，我冇箭咁。我有機喎，撤退先隊兵。
我就開咗都好快。
哇！仆街有騎。
啊，換兵啊，翻去搞唔掂啊！
哇！雷盾一出嚟俾騎中頂，你又快重新點？你奶奶啊！出嚟死咗三分一，屌你！
十幾隻兵嗰啲，
做咩啊？我手機都唔俾我走。IP 嗰啲我冇識嘅喎，我都唔會用淘寶嘅。佢呢一個點樣投石啊？佢呢一個
殺喎！呢個咩投石？
誒唔係喎，冇嘢啦，當我冇講過嘢。
唔中喎，其實真唔中。
真係盧鬼，講佢覺得唔明，佢唔知道佢白。
哇！俾雙刀騎收晒。
啊！佢門一對佛朗機，啲騎兵打唔到喎。
整咗水果，你又係冇食，點解整咗水果又？
佢盡中佛朗機，正門入唔到嘅喎，其實。
佢唔中意食，佢唔中意做嘢，有佢。
喂，唔係講笑，我真係攞到左位喺度嫖嘅啫，我只能夠入唔到喎。
我冇晒兵咯，
冇啊，全因為我哋
有兵都冇用喎，入唔到啊，重點係
我冇晒兵啦，
重點是進不到啊！重點是打不進去啊！
妖，原來我一路瞄嗰支咪，你聽唔到我講嘢，屌啦！
笑死笑死！
我講緊你哋唔好再喺正門啊，行上面落啦，橫掂都係輸啊！你喺正門冇意思啊，好悶啊！左位嗰啲上晒城牆上面呢點射翻落去一樣食到兵。
咁射咗好耐㗎啦，已經我哋左位。
冇啊！你來來回回來來回回啦，因為你冇箭啊嘛，你冇計嘅。漫天箭雨完就翻轉頭。
啊！冇箭頭先補箭咯。
冇辦法㗎，我哋只能夠就係慢慢磨走晒啲騎先可以入到去。如果唔係，你諗下佢嗰個正門嗰度，佢咁樣推晒啲兵喺嗰度呢，冇意思。我哋只能夠靠佢哋忍唔住上嚟，逐個武將慢慢殺，殺到佢啲 CD 貪。
已經有人忍唔住。
佢啲 CD 貪一撤退嘅話，我哋就有個空隙可以再重新入翻去咯。因為兵數我哋冇乜特別輸，但係
有雷盾喎，食唔食啊？
最唔好就係因為太多騎，食到咪食咗，食唔到冇辦法。而家都
最唔可以我哋太多票喎。
冇戰術嘅，因為啲兵真係爭太遠啦。人哋5星兵都6隊咯，我哋呢度1隊都冇，所以就係咁啦，冇辦法。
係頂時收唔長到喊出嚟。
我屌自己嘅啫。
屌佢衝，雙刀騎衝過嚟搞到我死鬼咗，我冇得指揮對馬爾他騎。啊！又冇咗3個裝備啦又。
3個咩裝備？我哋講嗰啲兵裝。
係啊，
兵裝啊！
好慘啊！唔可以再亂用啊！屌馬爾他真係窮啊變咗。
冇戰火位唔好攞對旗出嚟啊！呢個真係中谷嚟啊！
冇頭啦，仲喺度。
因為你同緊隻 game 講喂，我唔打噶啦！呢隻 game 你快啲用晒我啲戰火廢佢嘅咋，等於死人啊咁樣。
因為又死咗。
唔緊要啦，我哋都係等時間完啫嘛。
係啊，調緊兵嗰度攞去左位。
哦，收皮。
走啊，左位，撤退啦！冇箭啊，走啦！喂，阿滅世走啦，滅世走啦，走啦！
走咗啦！
好多人出咗嚟啊！哇！扮我。
注意咗未啊？你哋
差唔多啦。用咗投石尾用咗啦，炸咗好多兵啦已經。
啲咩？
打佢成隊啊！打到上嚟，開心陣。
其實話咧，我哋個寶典攞得好靚，跟住如果即刻換晒啲兵出嚟守，寶典唔到
我
佢哋。
換咗啦，守唔贏啊都係。
係。跟住
反而
佢哋
阿臨尾都要死到下。
一下揸隻兵90兵啊，喊出嚟。
我去緊個大本踩㗎啦，啱啱。
佢唔似啦，啲位啲隊友唔掂啊，係嘛？
唉，冇
不過氣氛都唔係好掂啊。
係啊，
冇計。
勢都唔係好掂喎，睇先。不過呢個台好煩嘅，黐線。
呢個圖我覺得好似煩。
你唔配合打唔到。
呢個圖咧，我自己覺得個打法咧，應該係喺個 A 點度磨咯。因為我哋最能夠燒到佢兵咧，其實真係淨係得 A 點個台先至可以完全 G 到咯。所以咧，基本上我之前咧嗰個打咧，我都會喺 A 點磨，即係唔攞 A 點住咯，不停咁磨佢啲兵，引佢上嚟，磨佢啲兵，引佢上嚟，磨佢啲兵咯。因為你得個 A 先至可以，一落到大本咧，同埋嗰個唔係一落到寶點嗰個位咧，左邊條巷成條巷都好難 G 噶。同埋佢哋嗰個補給線好近咧，我哋如果攞唔到嗰個補給點咧，基本上換唔到兵咧，同我哋平時攻城嗰個差唔多，所以一定要喺 A 嗰度磨到個兵選冇晒啲步兵啦，跟住焗住要出騎喺下面等嘅時候，我哋先至再推落去咯。如果唔係，基本上好難打啊！佢又步兵又騎兵，你諗下，佢衝嚟衝去，衝嚟衝去。喂，換人啊！我要食飯啊！我邊個？
睇食過呢啲嘢。
俾係啊，拎啦。
食瞓街喎。
喂，頭先勇氣話想打嘅喎，你睇下做唔做翻阿勇氣？
但係勇氣喺度啊？
問下咪知咯。
唔喺度喎，唔喺 DC 喎。有隊喎勇氣，我邀佢。
我真的需要勇氣。
打住先，唔得，我今日頭痛，衝過嚟。
又打住先，唔得喎，一走得又走咁樣。
唔係啊，我今日好攰。
野戰你哋打咗未啊？嗰個周日。
我全部解晒。
我想打野戰嘅，我野戰未解完，我要再8場喎。
我仲有聯盟一條龍喎。
未打。
聯盟一條龍我打咗，因為之前南瓜活動仲有嘅時候我打咗。
我未啊，我要打。我食完飯先做。
未打野戰。
其實我都想食啲嘢啊。
过你来的很巧，正好可以送我太忙了，不过你来的很巧，正好可以送不过你来的很巧，正好可以
唔識佢喎真係，唔好意思喎真係。唔識佢喎真係。滾咗就落咯，滾咗咪落咯。係啊，落晒㗎啦，滾咗就落咯，滾咗咪落咯。落晒㗎啦，滾咗就落咯，滾咗咪落咯。邊個係馮佩奧？邊個係馮佩奧？美國嗰個成日講喺度話美國會點樣制國務？邊個係美國嗰個台講喺度話美國會點樣制國務？話凍結咗咩港人，即係嗰啲林鄭嗰啲官員啲，話凍結咗咩港人。
哦，我的兄弟，祝你好运呐！
國務卿啊嗰
哦，我的兄弟，祝你好运。
但係突然間有諗起國務卿街嚟㗎。
哦，我的兄弟，祝你好运。
但係突然間有諗起國務卿街嚟㗎。
兔崽子！小兔崽子！小兔崽子！
right from your computer. Get the services of the post office, plus UPS at up to 62% off. Get our special TV offer, a 4-week trial, plus postage and a digital scale. Go to stamps.com/save and never go to the post office again.
Here's important information for anyone with an annuity or structured settlement. It's your right to sell all or part of your annuity payments for the cash you need now. Whether you need to make an important purchase, pay off debt, or build a business, call the pros at Peachtree today. We can help you get the cash you need. We're professionals at buying structured settlements.
Hi, I'm Maggie from Peachtree. We've been helping people for over 20 years. We can help you turn your settlement or annuity payments into the cash you need for a new car, housing, or to manage debt. Recently, I helped a customer get money for fertility treatments to start a family. It's your money, and you have the right to use it now.
Get your money faster by calling Peachtree now at 1-800-PEACHTREE. That's 1-800-PEACHTREE. Call today for a free quote. You may even qualify for a cash advance. Call now at 1-800-PEACHTREE or visit PeachtreeFinancial.com. Representatives are available now.
The presidential election still up for grabs this morning. The morning after Election Day, races in 6 swing states still too close to call at this hour. Let's bring in Byron York, chief political correspondent for the Washington Examiner and a Fox News contributor. Byron, I know you've got a lot on your mind this morning as we await more results. And you see the electoral vote count, 238 to Joe Biden at this hour, 213 to President Trump. So I know you're looking at various pathways to victory for both candidates. What are you thinking about? President Trump.
Well, for the president, I mean, the first thing he has to do is win Georgia and North Carolina. Those are not totally in the bag right now, and he absolutely has to have them. It's looking pretty good for him in Pennsylvania. So if he wins Georgia, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania, he still needs to win something else. And that something else was going to be either Wisconsin or Michigan. Maybe it could still be one of those things, but what we know now is that if it's not either one, Nevada seems to be surprisingly close. The president is not in the lead, but there still are votes to be counted there, and not just in the Democratic heavy areas, perhaps all over the state.
Byron, when you see what happened with some of these Senate races last night, you look at the big picture. What does it mean ultimately for not knowing how this race turns out? The Democratic dreams of packing the court, eliminating the filibuster, all the Green New Deal. What are we able to take away from what we saw play out last night? Eliminating the filibuster.
There was a Democratic dream of just completely remaking government, of packing the Supreme Court with additional justices, of making Washington, D.C. a state, of making Puerto Rico a state, of passing the Green New Deal, of raising taxes, all sorts of things. And that dream depended on Joe Biden being in the White House, on Democrats controlling the House, and Democrats controlling the Senate. That's why so many Democrats poured so much money, historic amounts of money, into efforts to knock off Lindsey Graham, Tom Tillis, and Susan Collins, and many others. And right now, it appears that that failed. Even if Joe Biden becomes president, a Republican Senate is the wall that stops all of those Democratic dreams.
It's a fascinating look. Byron, as we head through this morning, it's still not even 10 a.m. on the East Coast. We're awaiting these key battleground states still to come in. Pennsylvania is going to be a big one to watch. When you look at those various pathways to victory for the candidate, there are scenarios that could play out where it comes down to Pennsylvania. What do you expect to see play out in the coming days? There are scenarios that could play out where it comes down to Pennsylvania.
Obviously, there's going to be a lot of controversy about the Democratic vote in Philadelphia, in the Philadelphia area, because there always is. And Republicans will be suspicious of those vote totals. But I spent the last week of the campaign in western Pennsylvania. It was clear that Trump's support there was growing from what it had been in 2016. And if he wins Pennsylvania, that's going to be the reason.
Byron, always great to catch up with you. Thank you.
Well, as we were talking about, it's all
Thank you, Senator.
as America waits to find out the winner of this presidential election, the latest numbers from the 6 big states when our special coverage continues. Find out the winner of this presidential election, the latest numbers from the 6 big states when our special coverage continues. Find out the winner of this presidential election, the latest numbers from the 6 big states when our special coverage continues. Find out the winner of this presidential election, the latest numbers from the 6 big states when our special coverage continues. Find out the winner of this presidential election, the latest numbers from the 6 big states when our special coverage continues.
I tempi sono cambiati, carissimo! Che mal di schiena! Non fateci stare troppo in avanti!
Recipients, everyone on Medicare is encouraged to call 800-454-1178 now for your free, no-obligation Medicare benefits review. Now is the time during the Medicare annual enrollment period to see if you are eligible to save money and get additional benefits at little to no additional cost. You don't get these savings or additional benefits automatically, so make sure you call now during the Medicare annual enrollment period to make sure you are getting all the benefits you deserve. If you're not sure you're on the best plan for you, just call the number on your screen now for your free, no-obligation Medicare benefits review. Call before the December 7th deadline. You may be able to save money and receive additional benefits. You may also be eligible for a plan that includes additional benefits like home prescription delivery and expanded at-home telehealth visits. Just call 800-454-1178 now to find out if you're eligible for a Medicare Advantage plan that includes additional benefits like free hearing aids, free eyeglasses, free meal delivery, and free rides to medical appointments. You may also be eligible for $0 monthly premiums, $0 deductibles, or no copays. Just call the toll-free number on your screen now to see if you qualify for additional benefits, including dental, vision, hearing, and prescription drugs. There is no obligation to enroll. The call and Medicare benefits review are absolutely free. If you're not sure if you're on the best plan for you, just call the number on your screen now for your free, no-obligation Medicare benefits review. You don't get these savings and additional benefits automatically, so call before the December 7th deadline. You may be able to save money and receive additional benefits. Call 800-454-1178. 800-454-1178. Receive additional benefits. Call 800-454-1178. 800-454-1178.
President Trump, Joe Biden remain locked in a tight race at the moment this morning as a few key states continue to count their votes in a race to reach that magic number 270 on the electoral map. That is what is needed to win the White House. Joe Biden 238 so far, Donald Trump 213. Welcome to a brand new hour of America's Newsroom. I'm Sandra Smith. Good morning.
You talk about political chess. Sandra, this is it. Good morning to you. Good morning, everyone. I'm Trace Gallagher. An election night stalemate dragging into Wednesday morning in the states where this race will be decided. Things are still far too close to call, and here's how things are playing out in the Midwestern states. We're talking about Wisconsin, right? There's a lot of different scenarios there. We're talking Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. Let's look at Georgia. Georgia's very key, 16 electoral votes. You can see it right there. The president leads right now. It's a must-win for him. And then you move on to North Carolina, another analysts say must-win for the president. He's got a lead there, but not nearly enough to call that at this point in time.
And Nevada could be called shortly, according to our Fox News decision desk. We talked to Darren Shaw, top of the hour. Right now, Joe Biden leading in that state, 49.2 to 48.6 for President Trump. 6 electoral votes up for grabs there. Hopefully an update on some of those states soon. Both candidates did stay up late last night. We heard from both of them. Up for grabs there. Hopefully an update.
The citizens of this country have come out in record numbers. This is a record. There's never been anything like it. To support our incredible movement, this country, we won states that we weren't expected to win. Florida, we didn't win it. We won it by a lot. To support our incredible movement,
we believe we're on track to win this election.
In Florida, we didn't win it. We won it by a lot. To support our incredible movement.
We knew because of the unprecedented early vote and the mail-in vote, it was going to take a while. We're going to have to be patient until the hard work of tallying votes is finished. And it ain't over till every vote is counted. Every ballot is counted.
Team Fox coverage. Phil Keating is live for us in Florida. Chad Pergram on Capitol Hill. Mike Tobin in Wisconsin, plus Darren Shaw from the Fox News decision desk. But we begin with Mike Tobin, who's live in Milwaukee, where state officials are still counting a record-breaking number of absentee ballots. Good morning to you, Mike. Mike Tobin, who's live in Milwaukee.
Good morning, Trace. Megan Wolf, the administrator of the Wisconsin Election Commission, repeatedly said, don't be surprised if we're still counting in the morning. Here we are in the morning. We're still counting. What really seemed to change things is the absentee and early ballots here in the city of Milwaukee. There was a prediction that we'd be counting into the wee small hours of the morning, and indeed that is what happened. Ultimately, a woman named Claire Woodall-Vogg, she is with the City Election Commission. She hand-delivered under police escort a zip drive to the county. and that seemed to make the difference. Up to that point, President Trump was leading by upwards of 100,000 votes in this state, but you were counting 169 absentee votes from a heavily populated and deep blue area. So that really seemed to close the gap. Then once the total started getting counted in Green Bay, that also closed the gap. There was a problem in Green Bay. Apparently one of the voting machines ran out of ink. That slowed things down. There is no allegation thus far that somehow compromised the integrity of the election. We're still waiting on numbers in 2 small rural counties. One of them, Pierce County. A person in the clerk's office tells me their numbers should be posting at any minute now. Richland County, the county clerk there, Victor Vlasic, tells me that one township, Willow, Wisconsin, population 493, just didn't turn in their numbers, so he can't post final numbers. So come on, Willow, you can do it. Get those numbers in. Let's start finalizing things here in Wisconsin.
As the numbers come up, we'll put them on the screen. Mike Tobin live for us in Milwaukee. Mike, thank you.
All right, 6 states up for grabs. That's what we're all watching this morning. Darren Shaw joining us again from our Fox News decision desk. I know the coffee's flowing this morning, but we're gonna get what we can from you as we await more of these states to be called. So Darren, while we were talking last hour, top of the hour, something changed in Michigan, and our decision desk went lean Biden in that state, as you can see now, leading the president by 0.2 percentage points with 94% of the vote in. How close are we to calling this state?
I know this is an unsatisfactory answer, but we're still not there yet. We think that a huge chunk of the outstanding vote is, and you alluded to this last hour, Senator, is in Wayne County, which is heavily Democratic, and the fact that most of it's probably mail-in suggests it might be even more heavily Democratic. So there's a chance that Biden's very, very slim lead expands. But like Mike Tobin was suggesting in his earlier report, a county that hasn't reported all of its precincts or an error in reporting one way or the other that could change the numbers, just a few, is enough to bring this thing back into question. So we're, again, exercising an abundance of caution here.
Darren, what can we take away from this? When I just brought up Wayne County, where right now it shows Joe Biden 67.1% of the vote to Donald Trump's 31.7%. What can you take away from this? As I flip back to the 2016 results, Hillary Clinton led that county by a greater margin than Joe Biden is leading Donald Trump right now. Can that tell us anything else about the rest of the state as we await the total?
You know, I think it's reasonable to infer that, you know, these sort of county-by-county variances suggest that, well, you know, people have come to like Trump a little more in some of these areas, that he's made some enemies in other areas, and so you patch it all together. But we're looking at, honestly, although the direction of the result may switch, it's possible that Biden would win Michigan, whereas Trump won it last time. But I think basically we're almost spot on what we saw in the last election, which is kind of astonishing. A small point, Senator, also, Wayne has lost a lot of voters over the last 10 or 15 years as people left Detroit, and even to a lesser extent suburban Detroit. So even better numbers might not result in the same vote totals, which is obviously critical here.
All right, I'm back to the electoral map when it comes to the what-if scenario. If you could help us, help bring us along that pathway to victory that you are identifying for potentially Joe Biden, if in fact you call, the decision desk calls Nevada soon, which we are waiting on. You pointed out, if that happens, a possible pathway to victory for Joe Biden would clearly be securing Wisconsin and securing Michigan, as we talk about that just now. That would bring Joe Biden to that even 270, Darren.
Yeah, 2 points here, Senator. The first is we continue to get updates from Nevada, and I feel somewhat sorry to report this, but when they said noon, that they would be done with their counting,
tomorrow.
They meant noon tomorrow.
Yes.
And we were, just to make people possibly feel a little better, they're processing mail-in and absentee ballots that they received yesterday. And they've got a signature check and some other requirements, so it's not, even as frustrating for us, it's not unusual. The other thing I just point out real quickly, that it's possible that if Joe Biden wins with 270, that the second CD in Omaha will have delivered the presidency for Joe Biden, if all of this plays out. But who would have thought that?
Oh man,
even
are
a
we
week
down
ago?
to that? Wow, okay. So, because obviously that has already gone blue.
Right, right. So that would take him from 269 to 270. So isn't that just stunning? I mean, again, we're not there yet, but if we're playing these hypotheticals, that's a non-trivial hypothetical possibility.
So
here.
that is a possibility for a pathway to victory for Biden. Let's play around with some possible red states and pathway to victory for Donald Trump. He's at 213 before he potentially receives Georgia, North Carolina. What has to happen next? Obviously, Pennsylvania comes into play.
Right. He'd need to, Senator, he'd need to carry Alaska, right? So, which is still outstanding.
Yep.
Keep Pennsylvania, where he's currently leading, and then hold one of these three states, Nevada, right? And right now, perfectly candidly, I think Nevada may be his best shot, barring discrepancies in that Mike Tubin was pointing out, possibly in Wisconsin, or if we're incorrect about where the outstanding vote is in Michigan. But Nevada is still very close, and our models suggest that the remaining vote is going to be fairly even.
All right, so let's go back into that state, by the way. As we see the extremely close race, you can see vote totals, not just the percentages, but vote totals, a difference of less than 8,000 votes between the two candidates. But Darren, to go back to your news that you were sad to bring us, it is that we won't receive any additional reporting from that state until Thursday. People are going nuts about this on the social media universe. Why is that? Why aren't we going to get any more reporting from Nevada till tomorrow?
Yeah, and we on the decision team should know better. We study this stuff, but we forget things. And in the heat of the drama last night, we'd forgotten some fundamental things. Nevada tends to be very good at vote counting, but because they have this mail-in system and they're receiving ballots on election day, they're not processing them until today. And to process them properly, this is according to the Secretary of State, they're going to need to do signature checks to make sure that the person didn't also vote in person, right? So no double voting. So all those sorts of safety features, which I think all of us would suggest would concede are necessary. They're going to delay the processing of the ballots. It looks like. Who knows? Maybe they'll get done early.
All really good information. Darren Shaw, I know you're busy. Thank you very much for your time.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it. All right.
Well, Pennsylvania is still counting ballots, and the race there remains too close to call. So how long until we get the votes in? Joining me now is Pennsylvania's Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman. Lieutenant Governor, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. Good to see you again, sir. I talked to the Pennsylvania GOP chair a short time ago, and he says that he believes that President Trump is going to win the state of Pennsylvania. Your U.S. Senator, Democratic Senator Bob Casey, said the following, quoting here, "When all the votes are counted, Vice President Joe Biden is going to win Pennsylvania and be well on his way to necessary electoral votes to win the presidency. It's going to take time, and we all need to exercise patience. Every Pennsylvanian who cast a vote deserves to have their vote counted." So we're having a tough time getting a straight answer. Can you square it up for us? What do you think? Who's going to win in your estimation, and how long is it going to take?
I mean, the facts in Pennsylvania are really not up for dispute at the moment. There's approximately 1.4 million ballots outstanding in Pennsylvania, mail-in ballots. And they're coming from very Dem-heavy counties like Philadelphia County, Montgomery, Chester, and so forth. So if you trend that out, even under the most generous kind of projection in terms of divvying up the respective candidate whom they go to, and compare that to the president's current lead, it's certainly much more in Senator Casey's camp in terms of the likelihood of Pennsylvania at this point, just from a mathematical perspective.
Yeah, and you said, and you mentioned it, and Allegheny County is one of those, another Democratic stronghold, Pittsburgh. The question is, the president is 500,000+ votes up. That's a lot of votes to make up, and the word is that he's doing.
It's not a lot of votes to make up when there's 1.4 million outstanding mail-in ballots that are going to be more than likely overwhelmingly Democratic.
But some of those are in rural areas where the president, according to a lot of political analysts, did very well.
I agree with that. I agree with that. The president did, really well in rural areas, as I suspected that he would. But the fact is that many of these rural counties still have a significant Democratic portion, and they may very well likely use mail-in ballots too. That's the point. Like overall, mail-in ballots, regardless of their county origin, trend more towards Democrats. So statistically, that would be, my observation on that.
We had a live camera at a ballot counting operation in Philadelphia yesterday, and it was going gangbusters. I mean, they were doing, these machines can do 32,000 an hour, and there it is right there again. They're back at it. And then all of a sudden, it just kind of stopped yesterday. What happened to the counting of the ballots, sir, and when do you expect all of these things to be counted in full?
Well, nothing really stopped. Philadelphia has been cranking them. Pennsylvania is going to count every ballot, and it's going to have a safe, secure, true reflection of the democratic will of our voters, one way or the other, whether it goes to the president or whether it goes to the vice president. So this idea that we have to rush through it, but we're systematically going and processing every ballot that is in our receipt.
Yeah, the Philadelphia City Commissioner said this about the vote count. Listen, and I'll get your reaction on the other side.
We've never had to count this large number of mail-in ballots and have an in-person election. So we thought that we had timed it right, but truthfully, we've never done it before this, in this large number.
Just dealing with numbers, what do you say when people talk about these lawsuits, the litigation that could slow this down or stop this process altogether?
My understanding is that any lawsuit would be involving those ballots that have yet to be received, either they receive them today or tomorrow or Friday. But in terms of what's in every county's possession now, we're all securely received by election day. So they would absolutely, I don't think anyone would argue that those aren't going to count. So as those get processed through today, you're going to see a trend emerge, and whether or not that bears out with the way they broke the ones that have already been counted, across Pennsylvania.
Our understanding is 8 o'clock last night was when some of these ballots, the quarantine on a lot of these ballots being put aside in case litigation goes against the Democrats in the state.
Yeah, correct. Anything, after 8 o'clock tonight, last night onward would be sequestered. But again, we don't know how many we're going to get because obviously, Friday, today's a new day, Thursday and Friday. So given we know what we have right now, 1.4 million, and how those votes have broken for Democratic versus Republican, that's kind of the current state of play here in Pennsylvania.
Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman, thank you, sir, for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Well, you won't miss a thing as we track every twist and turn on the election. Special coverage begins next hour with Brett Baer and Martha McCallum. We hope you stay with us for that. I'll be watching.
We're getting some word from the Trump campaign. There was a last-minute phone call with the campaign manager, Bill Stepien. He said just a moment ago, we're confident in our pathway. We are confident in our math. The president also just tweeting from the White House a short time ago, the first of the morning. Last night, I was leading, he writes, often solidly in many key states. In almost all instances, Democrat run and controlled. Then one by one, he writes, they started to magically disappear as surprise ballot dumps were counted. He calls this very strange, and the pollsters got it completely and historically wrong. To provide some context to that, the president is talking about how some of those states initially appeared very strongly red. And of course, that was initially in some states that count the same day, election day, in-person voting first before the early mail-in or in-person early voting. And that's why you saw some of those numbers change throughout the evening and well on into the morning. Interesting to hear from our own decision desk this morning, commenting on just that, saying that Trump may have won every state on election day across the country, with the exception of states like New York and Connecticut, and the same for Joe Biden. When it comes to the mail-in voting, he may have won every single state with the exception of the Dakotas. So that is the state of play in 2020, considering the massive early voter turnout that we did see.
They talked about the red mirage, right? Yep. And then the blue shift, and then the blue mirage and the red shift, and that's exactly what we were seeing all night when you counted the absentees first, the mail-in first, and the in-person second.
And it was not just the White House up for grabs, of course. We were watching for the fight for control on Capitol Hill. That is far from over as both sides duke it out for the House and the Senate. A breakdown of the biggest races later this hour. Plus, going from the campaign trail to the courts, both sides mobilizing attorneys as they brace for a legal battle. So will this all end up at the Supreme Court? We'll ask Jonathan Turley next.
This is a very sad moment, and we will win this, and we, as far as I'm concerned, we already have.
I try to
using your smartphone.
I use Cardio Mobile every day, sometimes twice a day.
Every morning I check, make sure I'm in good shape, and it makes me feel pretty good about my heart condition.
It's a complete game changer. I mean, you might as well be in a doctor's office.
There's a way that I can communicate with patients now in a way I never could before. They have their own EKG in their pocket.
With Cardio Mobile, the FDA-cleared personal EKG device, you can take a medical-grade EKG in just 30 seconds from anywhere. Cardio Mobile is proven to detect atrial fibrillation, one of the leading causes of stroke, and it can also detect normal heart rhythm, bradycardia, and tachycardia.
Having Cardio Mobile, it's a peace of mind for me.
Because you can't see your cardiologist every day, but you can see your Cardio Mobile every day.
It's never been more important to check your heart at home. Cardio Mobile is now available for just $89. Order at cardiomobile.com or Amazon.
The presidency still undecided as votes continue to be counted. Karl Rove and Sarah Sanders have must-see reaction to the critical race on the next Hannity.
Selling a home is expensive and stressful, so we set out to create a better home selling experience with a network of the most successful real estate agents in America that'll sell your home for as little as a 2% commission.
The icing on the cake with the Ideal Agent was that we saved $12,000 in commission.
We would definitely use Ideal Agent again. The whole process was so positive for us.
Excellent service. Getting right to the point, hiring Ideal Agent, I wish we would have done that sooner, and we would have saved 6 months of time and mortgage payments that would have probably never happened if we would have just gone with them first.
They were so stress-free, the whole process was amazing, and I would definitely recommend them.
We certainly recommend Ideal Agent now to all of our family, all of our friends. It's just a great experience.
We are not a discount brokerage. These are top local agents that'll get you the best results.
This is a major fraud in our nation. We want the law to be used in a proper manner. So we'll be going to the U.S. Supreme Court. This is a very sad moment, and we will win this. And as far as I'm concerned, we already have.
That was President Trump last night declaring victory in the early hours of the morning, saying he is ready to go all the way to the Supreme Court over those mail-in ballots. He gave his speech as the results for some of the key battleground states, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, remain up for grabs and still are. And with attorneys for both campaigns bracing for a potential post-election legal battle. What that might look like, Jonathan Turley's here, a law professor and Fox News contributor. We keep working through these scenarios on the touchscreen to figure out pathways to victory for both candidates, Jonathan. If this does come down to Pennsylvania, what does that battle look like?
It doesn't look great. It's going to be very messy. We're really seeing a paradigm shift from the political to the legal, from counting votes to keeping votes. And so there are a number of states where valid challenges could be raised. It doesn't mean they'll be successful. Nevada is an example of that. There were very early concerns raised about balloting and how these ballots were being opened and stored. In Pennsylvania, there are a myriad of issues that could result in litigation. And Michigan has also seen some early challenges. And so we are now honing down to the key states that will be the focus of litigation. This is sort of like legal triage. You know, there are states that have had problems, but they're either going for Biden or Trump, and any problems that they had with balloting is largely immaterial. But the states that are swing states, particularly Nevada, Michigan, Pennsylvania, have some very serious questions that have been raised. And it's not that it's uncharted territory, it's just a territory that's hard to predict how will all come out. When the lieutenant governor in Pennsylvania said that he couldn't imagine a reason to challenge any ballots except those received after Election Day, I think he may be deluding himself. It's not simply the question of when the ballots were received, but how they were accepted and how they were recorded. When you have millions and millions of ballots, even in a normal election with conventional means, it is a target-rich environment.
So be more specific to that point, because obviously as the rules are laid out before the American people, the people of Pennsylvania, if you were to look specifically at that state, if it's postmarked by Election Day, November 3rd, then there's 3 days for that vote to be counted. So where does it get sticky?
Well, it gets sticky from the get-go. First of all, Pennsylvania changed or had a change of its election laws ordered by the courts. That didn't just include the extension for the receipt of balloting, but also rulings that said that if the signatures do not match, it will not necessarily negate a ballot. Even if the post date is not clear, the ballot can still be counted. All of those things, or all those controversies, can be raised in a state where the vote is expected to be quite close. There's also provisional, conditional balloting in these states. We're talking about a very narrow margin in these states that will invite litigation. So people that expect this to be over are truly deluding themselves. And believe me, this is going to make Florida look like a walk in the park if everything is going to turn on Pennsylvania.
This is the Biden campaign statement. I want to make sure I get this in here, Jonathan. The president's statement tonight, this is Jen O'Malley from the Biden campaign, about trying to shut down the counting of duly cast ballots was outrageous, unprecedented, and incorrect. It was outrageous because it is a naked effort to take away the democratic rights of American citizens. It was unprecedented because never before in our history has a president of the United States sought to strip Americans of their voice in a national election, and it was incorrect because it will not happen. Jonathan, you've spent time talking about the battle that might ensue. How should or how would you advise the president to proceed if they have legitimate concerns? Final thoughts.
Well, first he's got to tap down the rhetoric. That's only going to alienate courts. It's going to inflame people on both sides. He did not win these states last night. These states are still in play. There are ballots that will be counted. That doesn't mean that he didn't win them ultimately. It doesn't mean that he doesn't have a lead. And it certainly doesn't mean he doesn't have legitimate objections. But we all have to sort of take a step back here. We have an interest in counting valid ballots, including ones that have not been counted to date. That's going to go forward. But as these margins narrow, these lawsuits will increase, and judicial scrutiny is going to start within a matter of days.
Jonathan Turley, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, it was one of the biggest headlines last night, President Trump winning Florida with a wider margin than 4 years ago. So what was his key to victory in the Sunshine State? We're live in Miami next.
Gold has stood.
However, if you have a structured settlement, there are steps you can take now to get the cash you need during these unsettling times. If you receive regular payments from an insurance company, a personal injury settlement, or a car accident, for example, J.G. Wentworth is here to help you and your family get cash now. In the past year alone, J.G. Wentworth has helped customers get over $349 million from their structured settlements, annuities, and lottery winnings. Now, in response to COVID-19, J.G. Wentworth is offering cash advances to current customers with unanticipated needs. Current customers should call this dedicated number to learn more. Call 800-763-0143 to speak with a representative today. That's 800-763-0143 or visit jgwentworth.com. Please stay safe and stay well.
These are the hands of our nation. Proud, diverse. These are the hands that taught our children, fought for freedoms, and contribute to the most industrious workforce in the world. These same hands push the bounds of acceptance and tear down the barriers of resistance. It takes many hands to build a world of work that works for all. Now more than ever, we need a show of hands to move forward together.
With the Ninja Foodie Power Pitcher, you can crush ice, make smoothies, and do even more. Chop salsas, spoon-thick smoothie bowls, even power through dough and never stall. The Ninja Foodie Power Pitcher. Rethink what a blender can do.
We are Empower Retirement, and we are giving over 9.7 million people the guidance they need to help them pursue the future they imagine, making it easier for them to take action so they can focus on today while saving for tomorrow.
Well, President Trump not only won Florida again, he won it by a bigger margin than he did 4 years ago against Hillary Clinton. And one of the keys to his winning the Sunshine State, a surge in support from Latino voters. Phil Keating is live for us in Miami with a closer look at how this victory for the president went down. Phil, good morning to you. For weeks, the polls showed Florida was a dead heat. It was a toss-up. And this.
Oh, it absolutely was, Trace, as Florida usually is. But the biggest swing state prize in the country went handily to President Trump after both candidates spent tons of money in the state. They made multiple campaign appearances, and each candidate thought he would win the 29 Electoral College votes. But Trump won Florida for the second straight time instead, and it appears all came down to Florida's most populous county, Miami-Dade, which is historically a big Democratic stronghold. But Cuban Americans came out big and strong and voted for Trump in much larger numbers than they did for him 4 years ago. In Little Havana last night, oh, it was a party. Waving Trump flags, yelling, cheering, honking horns. It appears that Trump's boosted Hispanic support in Miami-Dade cut his 2016 vote deficit in the county by a whopping 200,000 votes.
All the Cuban community is for Trump. You can see it here. You can see it. All the support to Donald Trump. No sleeping, yo!
In President Trump's first election night remarks at around 2 this morning, almost immediately he spoke of his new home state, the Sunshine State.
We won states that we weren't expected to win. Florida, we didn't win it. We won it by a lot.
Trump also improved his 2016 performance in the crucial I-4 corridor. That's Tampa to Orlando to Daytona Beach, adding 25,000 votes over 4 years ago.
And Phil, the pre-election day research showed Biden underperforming with Hispanics in Florida.
Oh, it did. Biden knew it. The campaign, though, did not fix it. At 11:03 Eastern Time last night, that is when the Fox News decision desk called it. Trump wins Florida by 3.4% in a state typically decided by about 1%. Former Vice President Joe Biden held several Florida campaign rallies in the past couple of weeks, multiple drive-in style rallies, but it all may have just been too late. By the way, Biden did win Miami-Dade County by about 7%. However, 4 years ago, Hillary Clinton won Miami-Dade County by 30%. That's a huge difference and a huge amount of votes lost for Biden.
It is. Yeah, Phil Keating live for us in Miami. Phil, thank you.
All right, Phil makes a great point there. Let's take a spin on the touchscreen. I'll show you just how different it was this time around as far as that lead in Miami-Dade. Here's Florida with Trump securing 51.2% of the vote. Phil was pointing out something we were watching throughout the evening, Trace, right? Looking at Miami-Dade County, obviously heavily blue. Biden securing 53.5% of the vote there. That was important to see, Trace, because you flip this to 2016 results, and he won by a much narrower margin in that county than Hillary Clinton did back in 2016. You go back to the 2020 results from last night, Joe Biden, Broward County. You flip that to 2016, you can see also a narrower margin of victory for Biden than Hillary Clinton back in 2016, as was the case Palm Beach County. You move further north into the state. Trace, I know you were watching Sumter, home to the villages, to see the lead that the president had there. This is 2016, 70% of the vote there helped bring him to victory. This time around, almost the same. Narrower margin of victory for the president there, but still a commanding victory in Sumter. 68% of the vote there. Trace, as we went through the evening, we were waiting, remember? Ari Fleischer, everybody on Fox Broadcast, for the panhandle. The panhandle went solidly red for President Trump. We were watching for Okaloosa County, went to Donald Trump. The Pennsylvania governor, I'm told, is speaking now. Crucial battleground state we are waiting on. Let's listen.
Full faith that we will similarly meet this moment, and I will do everything within my power to ensure that the results are fair, and that every vote is counted. Pennsylvania will have a fair election, and that election will be free of outside influences. I will vigorously, and we all will vigorously defend against any attempt to attack that vote in Pennsylvania. And every Pennsylvanian can have confidence in the outcome of this election due to the diligence of the county election officials and the hard work of Secretary Bookvar and her folks at the Pennsylvania Department of State. So thank you again to all Pennsylvanians who voted. Rest assured your vote will be counted if it hasn't already been counted. Your vote will make a difference in this election. This is the way we elect our officials. This is the way we hire the people who are our public servants. It's a promise that we give to all Pennsylvanians, all Americans, that their vote counts, and I intend to keep that promise here in Pennsylvania. Now I'm proud to turn this over to Secretary of State Kathy Bookvar.
Sorry. That's it. Good morning. So I want to echo some of what Governor Wolf said about, once again, thanking all the, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of election workers that were and are still involved in the process of enabling this great democracy in Pennsylvania and across the nation. The work they have done and continue to do is just tremendous. And, we've been talking, Department of State folks were, at our operations center, 4:30 in the morning, went to take a shower, and we're back within a couple hours of that. So it's been working around the clock, as are many of the counties. And we've been talking about yesterday again, and how incredibly smooth. It's one of the smoothest, least issues presidential elections than I've seen in any time that I could possibly remember. And I've been in and around elections for a long time as a voting rights lawyer and a poll worker. This was incredibly smooth, and that's a huge credit to all the election workers, both at the state level and at the local level, as well as our state partners like PEMA and Office of Homeland Security, Department of Homeland Security, who made sure that all those things that people were worried about, whether it was voter intimidation or issues at the polls, really could not have gone more smoothly in the middle of a global pandemic with all the voting reform changes that we saw from Act 77 and Act 12. So that's huge kudos to everybody involved. Also, we are exactly where we said we would be. So we said it was going to take some time to count the mail ballots, and we are approaching 50% of the mail ballots counted, which is great. As you know, you can go to our Election Night Returns website and the supplemental dashboard to get the greater details on that. But there are still millions of ballots left to be counted. So the counties are working incredibly hard. You're going to see a lot of updates in the next couple of hours and throughout the day. We have been, there were a number of counties that made some major additions in the wee hours in the morning. So if you checked kind of early on this morning, you may want to check again, because there's already been more ballots accounted for on our dashboard. Again, this is a process. We've got, somewhere, I don't know what the totals are going to end up at, but somewhere between 2.5 and 3 million ballots. And as I've said many times, we had 260,000 ballots cast by mail in 2016. So we will be at 10 times the number of mail ballots, and the counties are already approaching 50% done. So I urge everybody to remain patient. As Governor Wolf said, we are going to accurately count every single ballot. The vote count, as I've said many times, is never done on the day of election night, and the counties are doing this accurately, and then accurately as quickly as they possibly can. And again, I'll also just remind everyone, military and overseas ballots are not due until a week after Election Day. So next Tuesday is the deadline for military and overseas voters to cast their ballots. And we want to make sure that not only every civilian absentee and mail-in valid voter is counted, but also that every man and woman who are serving our country, that their votes are counted. So thank you, and we are happy to take questions. Should I stay?
I'm sure you want to talk to Kathy. Any questions? Dennis?
Can you tell us where we stand right now and what you know of challenges, legal challenges from the Trump administration, and how are you preparing to deal with those?
So I think, you know, basically what you know that's been publicly reported, that's really all we have at this point. So, and I can't talk about active litigation, unfortunately. So you know, you could, but as things are filed, of course, those will be publicly accessible.
Do you have attorneys that are going to handle that, or are you bringing in somebody from the outside, and who would that be?
We have a mix of, I mean, what we've been doing all along with all the litigation that's been flying this year is we have a mix of in-house and outside counsel. Plus the Attorney General is also representing us in a number of these things. So there's been a great team. I have to say the attorneys, I'm just going to give a shout out to the legal team in the Department of State who have been really put to work this year, and they are amazing. So Tim and Kat and team, thank you. But we also have tremendous teams of outside counsel who have been involved in all of this. And as the governor said, we will make sure that every vote is counted. Every eligible voter has the right to cast their vote.
How many counties are handling ballots that are coming in Tuesday, Thursday, Friday? How are they handling that? And is each county setting them aside? How is each county doing it?
So you can go online to see our guidance, and then last night we also gave sort of more technical guidance to the counties, which we can forward to you. It lays out the process. So you're talking about the late arriving ballots. So everything's going to be segregated. I'm not sure if you were here yesterday, but all those ballots will be segregated, but they will be counted, and the counties have been given detailed instructions, which again you could find in those guidances to walk them through how to segregate those races, those ballots. Sorry.
Can you talk about the order in which those things will be counted? I mean, is that a county by county decision? Can we expect to see those numbers being already reflected, or is that something they would get to later in the process?
Yeah, they'll get to, I mean, so basically it's going to depend, right? There's some counties that are already done counting their mail-in ballots received before 8 p.m., so those are going to start sooner, but they won't be reflected on the website. They won't be like intermingled in the website as you see it now. They will be segregated. So, but it is going to vary from county to county when they start because they're working on the other ones first.
How it will be reflected on the website, though? I'm unclear on that.
Well, I think stay tuned on that. Yes.
So on those segregated ballots, there were 500,000 ballots issued that hadn't been cast as of yesterday.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Sorry, there were 500,000 mail ballots issued that hadn't been cast as of yesterday. Is there a way for the state to determine how many of those 500,000 people chose to vote in person instead, or do we need to operate under the assumption that all 500,000 could come in before Friday?
So all that will be trackable, but we won't have it today. So basically between provisional ballots and the poll books, and then of course the mail-in ballots, you know, as you all know, like only one vote can be counted for any voter. So you'll be able to see all of that, but it will take some time for that data to be quantified. Yes, sir.
Last night, I think your comment was that you didn't know how many mail-in ballots had arrived yesterday, right? Do we know yet how many ballots arrived yesterday? What is the number of mail-in ballots?
I don't have that with me this morning, but check on the dashboard, and that will be updated throughout the day. Yeah, sorry. Jan?
Representative Benninghoff keeps raising this point about how ballots that arrived yesterday that can still be counted may not have a legible postmark on them, and raising questions about whether or not they should be counted or not. And he said it's because of the prepaid envelopes that the state provided. I was wondering if you could speak to that.
Sure. So I'm not sure, he may be confusing. So anything that arrived yesterday, it doesn't matter whether it's postmarked or not. Anything that arrived yesterday is a valid vote. That's what Pennsylvania law has always been, right? So talking about the late arriving ballots, So the postmark, first of all, the way we did prepaid postage in Pennsylvania is we went to the counties where they are. So if they wanted it to be through their business reply mail, USPS permit, we did it that way. If they wanted to literally have us reimburse them for stamps or metered postage, we did it however they want. So some of them are not even, and I don't remember how many, but we could get you that information, how many counties are using business reply mail, but those are still postmarked. They have timing marks, they are date stamped, they are still trackable by date. So it's a tiny fraction of any of those things, whether it's business reply mail or regular mail. I mean, we've all had that situation where you get a letter and it's not postmarked. It's rare, right? Same for business reply mail. They do what's called a timing mark, so that's just, it's not accurate. They're all stamped.
No mark on it. If it is one of those rare occasions, would it be counted?
So under the current Pennsylvania Supreme Court decision, which is currently the law, yes, as long as there's no affirmative evidence that it was postmarked after November 3rd, as long as it's received by November 6th at 5 p.m., it will be counted. Yes.
It's my understanding that the state's website is showing 18 counties with 0% mail-in ballots counted. Is that accurate? Do you have any insight into that?
So, you know, what I would suggest, sometimes counties are uploading on their own websites and haven't transmitted the file to the Department of State because, you know, they have their own local races. So I urge you, if you see any, and this is what we're going to be doing throughout the day, go to the county website. You should always do that. It's a great way to double check. But we're going to be following up with all those counties to say, hey, you know, make sure you get us the files. Some of them, you know, this year, because we had, for the first time, we had a website that was going to itemize the mail-in ballots from the in-person ballots from the provisionals. Some of the counties, when they uploaded the results, it merged the two types into one, and that was just, they formatted it wrong. So we're working through that to make sure that the actual attribution of those ballots are right.
Notice that there's a larger than expected number of counties that have reported.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that they haven't counted. It may just mean that it's just not uploaded to the Department of State website yet. So I do urge you to check the county websites and see if that's available on their website.
Last thing, I'm sorry, if I can just double back on something. If I heard you correctly in your introductory remarks, it was between 2.5 and 3 million mail-in ballots. Is that, and you're roughly 50%? If you could speak with as much specificity as possible regarding that, that would be helpful.
Well, I think, yeah, the numbers that I gave yesterday, it was just under 2.6 million, as I recall. But again, I'm not sure what has additionally come in. But so as of you know, yesterday, at some point, it was just under 2.6 million that had been cast. And that's when I think I said it was 83% or something like that. So we can get back to you. Again, go on the website. You'll have that information available to you. I just don't have it at my fingertips today.
Okay.
Yes.
Can you tell us how many mail-in ballots are outstanding on a county-by-county breakdown, or is that also on the website?
It's on the website. Yep. So if you go to the regular ENR reporting website, it also tells you that you can click on the supplemental dashboard, and you click on that. It breaks down. There's a tab for mail ballots that breaks it down by county, how many have been cast, how many have been counted, and how many are remaining. There's a tab for in-person precincts reporting, broken down by county, so it'll tell you how many precincts are in each county, how many are
You've been listening to Pennsylvania officials and the governor there, Tom Wolf, give an update on those million-plus votes yet still to be counted in that state. Could come down to Pennsylvania as we have those key battlegrounds that are still too close to call. The governor saying we may not know results in this state today. Kind of expected. It could take several days, possibly go into weeks. We will see what happens. He said we will make every vote count. Officials are working to count all of those ballots that are left. That is an active process in Pennsylvania. We'll continue to monitor that for you.
Yeah, let's bring in Bill McGurn. He's a Main Street columnist for the Wall Street Journal, former chief speechwriter for George W. Bush, and a Fox News contributor. And Bill, I don't know if you were watching this, but I want to get your take on the breaking news here in Pennsylvania, because really, I mean, you've got a GOP-controlled legislature in Pennsylvania. We just heard from the Democratic governor, Tom Wolf, there. They're at odds over this law that you can accept absentee ballots coming in after election Election Day, and that's kind of the thing the Supreme Court decided not to get involved in for the time being. The question remains, this is litigation that could mess up a lot of plans over the next 5, 6, 7 days.
Yeah, I agree with that. I would say Pennsylvania invited this kind of outcome and for things to be messed up with litigation by the way they changed rules. My understanding, when the Supreme Court upheld the court's decision on Pennsylvania and the rules, my understanding was that that was just about a stay.
Right.
In other words, they rejected the Republican request for a stay. So that can be revisited. And in that short period of time, we now have Amy Coney Barrett on the court. So it could change a lot. Look, this is the worst outcome, where everyone goes to vote, and then overnight, people are counting votes, we don't know what's going on, and results change. And we should do everything to try to prevent that. But again, Pennsylvania and other states invited this.
Yeah, did you expect, Bill, for this race to be this close? I mean, I don't think a lot of people did. What about you?
Well, actually, if I could brag a little bit, I did. I wrote a column that came out the day of, talking to one of those pollsters, Matt Towery, who had called it for Trump in 2016. And he said, look, the two big problems he had is this is going to be a narrow race, right? He thought Trump would win, but it was going to be very narrow. And he dismissed the big blue waves that a lot of other people were predicting because of that. And I think he's been largely vindicated on that. Some of these things were crazy. I mean, an ABC poll, I think a week out, had Wisconsin up 17 points. And his point was that the polls were not capturing Trump voters. They certainly didn't catch, like, the wave of Latinos in Florida and so forth. So on that particular one, I don't often get much right, but I think I have a good record there.
Well, kudos to you on that, Bill. And I want to read this, the Wall Street Journal editorial saying, so much for the landslide. It reads as follows: it's already clear that the biggest early losers are the pollsters. The mainstream media polls all had Mr. Biden winning in a walk with a popular vote margin in the upper single digits. Mr. Biden still seems likely to win the popular vote, but the margin will be narrower than predicted, and the Electoral College was still up for grabs. Lamenting the Electoral College is hardy perennial, but both parties know that it's the measure of victory or defeat. Your thoughts on that editorial?
Yeah, I thought it was a fantastic editorial. I mean, I didn't write it, so I could say this was a fantastic editorial, and it gets right to the point. It gets right to the point, and I think, again, we treat polls as though they're scientific, and there's a lot of educated guesses that go into them about the sample size, and we shouldn't put so much faith in them before, but so many were just so lopsidedly wrong.
And lastly, Bill, what was it, do you think, the deciding that kind of pushed, that buoyed and lifted the president? Was it the economy pre-pandemic? What is your thinking on how the president kind of lifted up at the last minute?
Well, I think our editorial said correctly that the growing economy that we had with great performance for Latinos and for African Americans and so forth, for all sorts of people, I think that helped. I think also there was a big movement among young people who just don't want to be shut up at home, and they consider Joe Biden the candidate of lockdowns.
Bill McGurn, always good to talk to you, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, Tracy.
Yep. Thank you. The country and the world watching as we await those key battleground states in the race to 270. Both President Trump and Joe Biden fighting for that magical number, 270, the number of electoral votes needed to secure victory. Our special election coverage rolls on.
Veterans.
inflammation in your eye might be to blame.
Looks like a great day for achy, burning eyes.
Over-the-counter eye drops typically work by lubricating your eyes and may provide temporary relief.
Ha! These drops probably won't touch me.
Zydra works differently, targeting inflammation that can cause dry eye disease.
What is that? Zydra!
It can provide lasting relief.
Oh.
Zydra is the only FDA-approved treatment specifically for the signs and symptoms of dry eye disease. 1 drop in each eye, twice a day. Don't use if you're allergic to Zydra. Common side effects include eye irritation, discomfort, or blurred vision when applied to the eye, and unusual taste sensation. Don't touch container tip to your eye or any surface. After using Zydra, wait 15 minutes before reinserting contacts.
Got any room in your eye?
Talk to an eye doctor about twice daily Zydra.
I'd prefer you didn't.
Zydra. Not today, dry eye.
Attention! Are you on Medicaid or Medicare? The U.S. government recently announced that 12.2 million citizens are eligible for additional benefits beyond what they receive from original Medicare or Medicaid. These additional benefits include up to $1,000 of dental credit, up to $1,200 to spend at your local pharmacy, up to $144 added back to your Social Security check every month. Call Go Medicare today to see if you are one of the over 12 million people that qualifies for these benefits. Call now at 800-838-1064. Call and benefits review are 100% free with no obligation to enroll. These benefits will make a difference in your health insurance coverage with additional benefits like dental, vision, and over-the-counter medications. Make Medicare and Medicaid work for you. Call Go Medicare today at 800-838-1064. That's 800-838-1064.
Okay, Trace, that is the morning after Election Day, waiting on some key battleground states still.
We're seeing Michigan now at 30,000 votes. Joe Biden is up with 96% of the vote in, which is fascinating. Shows you this thing is far from over, and it's going to go down.
Nevada could get called a short time from now. Of course, Pennsylvania could take days. We'll see. We'll be watching it all. It was a long evening last night, a great morning this morning.
It was great, yeah.
We don't have an outcome yet. We'll still await that. And our special coverage continues here on the Fox News channel. Thank you for joining us. Martha and Brett.
Well, a few hours later, the fight for the White House is still on. This election now in overtime as we await the results in 6 big battleground states. Good morning. I'm Brett Baer.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Martha McCallum. Brett, good morning to you. As we get rolling again today, this is where we stand in the race towards 270 electoral votes. President Trump has 213 at this hour. Joe Biden has 238. We've got Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Nevada, North Carolina, and Georgia. 6 states, the same 6 that we left you with last night, still not able to call those states. But early this morning, the president came out and declared that in the way he viewed it, he had won enough states to win. While Joe Biden came out and said also he believed that he was on the track to a victory, but called for patience. He said this is not over until the votes all have been counted. And that is happening right now.
So we'll dig into all of these states. We'll take a look at where that stands with Bill Hemmer at the billboard. Yes, he's back too. But first team coverage, Fox team coverage. Brian Yanis is live in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. Jonathan Seri live in Atlanta. Peter Ducey live in Wilmington, Delaware. But we start with Chief White House Correspondent John Roberts. Kicks things off from the North Lawn. Did you leave and come back, or did you just have another change of clothes? Or
I don't live that far away, so it didn't take me long to go home and try to get a couple of hours sleep and then get back. Good morning to you, Brett and Martha. Was on a conference call in the last hour with the Trump campaign in which they tempered a little bit what the president was saying last night in terms of declaring victory, but insisting, Bill Stepien and Jason Miller, that there still is a path to victory for the president in Pennsylvania, Georgia, Michigan, Arizona, and Nevada. In fact, they put some figures on it. They said that the votes are out there to potentially give President Trump a victory in Arizona of around 30,000 votes, a victory in Pennsylvania of around 40,000 votes. Also floating the idea that Wisconsin could be in recount territory. The Trump campaign says they want all legally cast ballots to be counted. and all illegally cast ballots to not be counted, though they didn't go into detail as what the difference is between legally and illegally. The president watching closely what's going on, tweeting within the last hour, quote, "How come every time they count mail-in ballot dumps, they are so devastating in their percentage and power of destruction?" The Trump campaign is already fundraising for potential legal action ahead. It's unclear exactly what the Trump campaign plans to do legally, but at 2:30 this morning, the president coming down to the East Room, you see him there, making it clear that we should expect legal challenges to at least some of the results. Listen here.
For the good of this nation, this is a very big moment. This is a major fraud in our nation. We want the law to be used in a proper manner. So we'll be going to the U.S. Supreme Court. We want all voting to stop. We don't want them to find any ballots at 4 o'clock in the morning and add them to the list.
The president has been laying the groundwork for legal challenges for months now, from literally the moment that state governors began talking about dramatically expanding mail-in voting. The president insisting that it would be a recipe for fraud and abuse, arguing that the only way he could lose the election to Joe Biden was if the election was stolen, a notion that he repeated early this morning. Listen here.
This is a fraud on the American public. This is an embarrassment to our country. We were getting ready to win this election. Frankly, we did win this election.
And the president in another feud with Twitter this morning after Twitter partially censored a tweet that he put up a little while ago where the president said, "Last night I was leading off and solidly in many key states. In almost all instances, Democrat run and controlled. Then one by one they started to magically disappear as surprise ballot dumps were counted. Very strange, and the pollsters, in quotation marks, got it completely and historically wrong." Twitter took a look at that and said they didn't like it. They slapped a disclaimer on it. The president furious that that happened. Brett, Martha?
You know, John, we should point out we're waiting for the Michigan Secretary of State to pop up here in a virtual press conference sometime. But I want to ask you 2 questions. One is, on that campaign call, they still believe in the math in places like Nevada and Michigan? And the second question is, what kind of legal challenge? Are we talking about absentee ballots and verifying them? Is that where the road they're going down?
You know, as to the legal challenge, I have no idea, because you know the whole idea was that the campaign may try to exclude counting ballots, but now they're saying no, we want all of the ballots to be counted because they believe that in places like Pennsylvania in particular that there are enough ballots on the mail-in side to give President Trump the victory. Now they're doing splits like, well, let's say that it's 95-5 for Joe Biden in Philadelphia, but elsewhere across the state of Pennsylvania, it's 70-30 for Biden. That would give President Trump enough to win. So on the one hand, the president is complaining about mail-in ballots, but then on the other hand, the campaign is saying, let's make sure that we count all legally filled out ballots. And they also believe that in Nevada, there's a chance for the president to win as well, but they insist that they still potentially have Arizona. Despite the calls last night, they mentioned again that they pushed back against us and the Associated Press for making that call. Right?
Yeah, it sounds like they want to keep open the question of Arizona today and whether or not all of those votes have been counted. John.
And one of the reasons is because if you discount the chance that you could win, then people start to move on. So they want to really keep alive the idea that this is not done by any stretch of the imagination. And they want to keep people on their side saying count the votes, make sure you count the legal votes, and challenge whatever you can.
Thank you, John. John Roberts at the White House. Meanwhile, no movement from Joe Biden this morning so far. The former vice president is home in Delaware, while ballots are being counted in 6 crucial key states to the victory for whomever it will eventually go, Joe Biden says that he's confident that he is on track to win the presidency as well. Watch this.
We're going to have to be patient until the hard work of tallying the votes is finished. And it ain't over till every vote is counted. Every ballot is counted. But we're feeling good. We're feeling good about where we are.
So Peter Ducey is in Wilmington, Delaware once again this morning. Peter, what are you hearing today from the Biden campaign? They seem a bit more optimistic today.
A lot more optimistic, Martha. The Biden campaign is telling us now they expect that Wisconsin may be called as early as this morning. for them. They think Michigan may be called as early as this afternoon for them. They think Nevada may be called as soon as tomorrow for them. And Pennsylvania, they know, may take a few days. They're not counting on that right away, but they think that's going to be called for them too.
Joe Biden is on track to win this election, and he will be the next president of the United States. So we believe we are on a clear path to victory. By this afternoon, we expect that the vice president will have leads in states that put him over 270 electoral votes. Today, the vice president will garner more votes than any presidential candidate in history.
Georgia, they think, is more of a toss-up. North Carolina, they think more of a possibility for a loss, and they're making the exact opposite argument Trump is making, stressing that if vote counting stopped right now, they would win. The campaign manager goes further, telling us in a statement she emailed at 3:50 a.m. this. The president's statement tonight about trying to shut down the counting of duly cast ballots was outrageous, unprecedented, and incorrect. It was outrageous because it is a naked effort to take away the democratic rights of American citizens. It was unprecedented because never before in our history has a president of the United States sought to strip Americans of their voice in a national election. The former vice president, we're being told, has just one event on his schedule today. It's going to be remarks in person somewhere here in Wilmington, which is a lot more of a heads up than we had last night when his remarks were were put together at the very last minute.
And folks, you heard me say it before. Every time I walk out of my grandpa's house up in Scranton, he'd yell, "Joey, keep the faith." And my grandma, when she was alive, yelled, "No, Joey, spread it. Keep the faith, guys."
And before Biden came out very early this morning, the campaign had been testing out some light effects and some music and a visual effect with some people on a Zoom screen that was projected on a nearby building. They didn't wind up using any of that, and we don't expect to see any of that this afternoon because it just wouldn't work with broad daylight. Normally, also, though, with an election night, the way that it was set up last night, the stage would come right down, the Secret Service would leave. Everything is still set up, so we may not be done with this location yet. Martha?
Peter, thank you very much. You know, Brad, I just want to make one point that we talked about last night. I mean, essentially what we have this morning is both campaigns saying that they believe that they have won when they look at the numbers out there. And Jen O'Malley Dillon talks about the president wanting to stop the counting of votes. That's not what the president said last night. What the president said last night was that he wanted the voting to stop as of November 3rd, Election Day, which is when the voting has to stop all across the country. The counting, both camps are agreeing, is what needs to continue until all of the valid votes are indeed counted in these states.
I think that what we have to find out is if there is a legal challenge, and John Roberts and others are saying they expect it, what that looks like. And does it look like a challenge to absentee ballots? Does it look like something that, you know, do you match the signatures? And if you don't, is that a legitimate ballot? I mean, suddenly, when you open that door, you could file things in all of the states and challenge how those absentee ballots were handled. It gets very messy and sticky, but you know who can straighten it all out? 6 states. Bill Hemmer, back at the board for a breakdown. Good morning, sir.
Hey, guys. Good morning to you. You guys are fresh.
How are you, sir?
Oh, what's it been, 5 hours? Why don't we reset where we left off around 5 a.m. East Coast time and just give you a sense of what has perhaps moved since then, maybe what's changed a little bit in this direction or that direction. I want to start here in Wisconsin. And just at the moment, you've got a 21,000 vote lead for Joe Biden. Now, 4 years ago, that was flipped. Donald Trump won Wisconsin by 22,000 votes, went to a recount early in December, and just looking at a little article from earlier today, when they did the recount, they found 318 more votes for Donald Trump. So I don't know if we're in recount territory in 2020, but we might be here in the state of Wisconsin. Just a point of note here, when they did it 4 years ago, not a lot changed. That's the point here. Michigan, we last left off, and I was telling you about Trump trying to track down Biden. Well, here we are at the moment with Joe Biden today with a 22,000 vote lead there in Michigan. 4 years ago, Trump won the state by about 10,000 votes. So this is a bit of a flip at the moment also. So we'll see how that turns out. Pop on out here to Nevada. We are told, talking with Darren Shaw just about an hour ago with the decision team, Nevada has said they will not give results again until tomorrow. So what's the state of play? Nevada's got an 8,000 vote difference, which is it's razor tight. It was 26,000 for Hillary Clinton 4 years ago, and this year it's been cut by 2/3. We are told that the outstanding ballots in Nevada don't just come from Clark County, which is Las Vegas, or Reno up here in the Northwest, but it comes from all over the state. So that might lead us to think about the logic that John Roberts was giving there from the White House about the fact that they feel like they're still in Nevada. And we'll see if that's the case. John was also talking about Arizona. I know the White House has not given up on this. You guys know the great pushback we were given last night when we made that call. In the middle of the night, the Associated Press did the same thing. At the moment, Arizona has not changed. It's still blue. I'll pop down here to Georgia. You know what? Before I do that, let me make this point here, guys, because this is what it's all about. Of those 3 states I just talked about, if Joe Biden were to hang on to Michigan and hang on to Wisconsin and keep Nevada, he's at 270. Don't know what's going to happen down here in Georgia or North Carolina or Pennsylvania. Get that in a moment here. Here's the scenario now. Go ahead and reset this sucker, and we shall restart her in the morning here. For the Trump team, this is what they're looking at. The margin in Georgia, I'll show you in a moment here, is just so super tight. You want to keep Georgia. It's a few points here in North Carolina. I'll show you that in a moment here. You want to keep North Carolina. And then are there more votes to be found in Michigan and Wisconsin? There might be, but at the moment it doesn't appear that that's to be the case because of these mail-in ballots tend to skew blue, as we've been saying now for a day and a half. But what about Nevada? What happens if you take the lead out there in Nevada with all the other ballots that are yet to be counted over the next 24 hours or so? Now you're at 250, and look where we come back here, guys. Floating out here is Pennsylvania again. And if you're able to backtrack and come around and take the Keystone State, you are right on the number that you would need to get a second term. Now I'll drill in just a little bit more and just give you a state of the race here with the balance in Georgia the way it sets. When we left around 5 o'clock this morning, there were about 200,000 votes that were outstanding in the area of Atlanta. So we're talking about Fulton County, which is, it's 71% for Joe Biden, which is the number you would expect there. Just for comparison's sake, Hillary Clinton was right on the number 2 from 4 years ago. Back here in 2020, though, at the cab to the east of Atlanta, too, is another county there where a lot of votes were still outstanding. When I say a lot, I mean based on the entire turnout for the state. It's not a ton, but 200,000 votes at 5 a.m. can make a big difference when they're in the bluest part of the state of Georgia. And also Clayton County, small little county here south of Atlanta. Not as many votes as you find in Fulton County or DeKalb, but a big percentage for Democrats. And just to show you that in a close race, Hillary Clinton was right at that number, 86% from 4 years ago. So the state of play in Georgia this morning, then, is that 200,000 vote count has been about cut in half, we believe, in terms of being counted. However, the greater majority of those votes are going blue, so that favors the Biden team right now. So here's your marker with the president up about 2 points as of now, and about 100, I'm doing quick math here, guys, about 102,000 votes, real votes on the ground. So how is that now divvied up? That's something we're going to have to watch throughout the day here. I'll just spin you up to North Carolina. We talked about this late into the evening, 94% of the votes in. That leaves you 6% of the vote in North Carolina that's outstanding. Why is that? Where are those votes? Where are they coming from? Right now, we don't know. And it's a confounding thing when you have so many absentee ballots that are cast in these states that really have not managed the volume of votes, not suggesting they can't do it. But when you handle the volume of votes, sometimes things get a little confusing and confounding as to where you go in the state. This is not your typical election. You know, I mean, we're trained to see real votes come in real time. And that's not the way it goes this year. They skew blue, then the red team comes in, and then we figure it out between both sides. By the way, here's Pennsylvania. 81% of the vote is in. We were talking just a few moments ago about how Donald Trump did in some of these counties. I mean, he was hitting these rallies time after time in Pennsylvania. But Joe Biden was doing the same thing when he did appear out of Delaware. He would go to Philadelphia here in the county of Philadelphia at the moment. It's clocking in for just shy of 400,000 real votes. Okay, Hillary Clinton, she was doing 560,000, about 84%. So there's still some votes to be counted there. The thing you can do here, guys, you can poke around to the countryside in Texas. In the T here in Pennsylvania. Oftentimes we take Pennsylvania, we do the T because all the red is out here, and then the blues in Pittsburgh and the blues down here in Philadelphia and the surrounding counties. This is Lackawanna, by the way. This is Scranton, PA, with the former vice president mentioned in his late night speech last night. This year, though, you can start poking around here. The president increased his percentage in a lot of these counties. The fracking message worked. He drove up turnout in Pennsylvania, but whether or not that's able or good enough to overcome these counties down here around Philadelphia. There's Montgomery, 60% for Joe Biden, and this is Chester County, more than a little bit for a Joe Biden edge. This is really, Bucks County is really a bellwether county that we find, and the president did quite well there, more than 53% of the vote. Reason I say that, 2016, look where it was. 2012, look where the same county, Bucks County, was. Really, it shows you just how close that state can be, but at the moment, the president really outperformed his number from 4 years ago, hence the reason why you can't call it. Brett, Martha, I think we're going to talk a lot about voter intent in the coming 24 hours or beyond, and I thought the Secretary of State in PA went to address that last hour when she talked about the postmarks that were on the envelopes that were delivered. There was an effort, at least in Pennsylvania, to make sure that this date that will be covered here is indeed legitimate, because you can cast a ballot as of yesterday at the close of business, and if it arrives by Friday at 5 o'clock in Pennsylvania, under current state law, that ballot will count. So it's Wednesday at 11:20 a.m., a couple of days ago, perhaps, in Pennsylvania, guys.
All right, Bill, thank you. A quick look at the net gains. Republicans are holding right now in the Senate. You see 47-47. We still have some races out there to call. And in the House, Republicans picked up 5 so far. And that's pretty remarkable. The House races, the Republicans picking up 5. In the Senate, Democrats are +1. They need 4 to take over control. We still have Susan Collins, John James, Tom Tillis, the Georgia race. It is possible that the one Georgia race we know is going to a runoff, the other one could. You could have the balance of power in the U.S. Senate be decided by 2 races in Georgia the first week of January.
Yeah, not really at all what everyone expected. There were predictions that the House, they were going to lose 15 seats for Republicans, so a very different picture in that area. So a surge in the Latino vote has been a big subject of discussion since we watched the demographics rolling in on these votes last night, and that helped to put President Trump in the victory column in Florida last evening. There's the jubilant celebrations. It wasn't the only place where he made gains in that block, though. So we're going to break that down and we'll see what it means for the battleground states when we come right back.
$3,000.
cash payment.
We thought we had planned carefully for our retirement.
But we quickly realized we needed a way to supplement our income.
If you have $100,000 or more of life insurance, you may qualify to sell your policy. Don't cancel or let your policy lapse without finding out what it's worth. Visit CoventryDirect.com to find out if your policy qualifies, or call 1-800-515-4100. Coventry Direct, redefining insurance.
Tommy John is for people who value themselves and their comfort. From golfers to nurses, entrepreneurs to chefs, everyone is choosing Tommy John. Our fabrics are lightweight, breathable, and insanely soft. Our underwear never rides up, and our stay-put waistbands stretch for the perfect fit. Innovations like our Quick Draw Fly and No BPL and Supporta bras comfortably earned us thousands of 5-star reviews because Tommy John knows how comfortable you want to be. Go to TommyJohn.com right now for $20 off site-wide.
The presidency still undecided as votes continue to be counted. Karl Rove and Sarah Sanders have must-see reaction to the critical race on the next Hannity.
Attention! Are you on Medicaid or Medicare? The U.S. government recently announced that 12.2 million citizens are eligible for additional benefits beyond what they receive from original Medicare or Medicaid. These additional benefits include up to $1,000 of dental credit, up to $1,200 to spend at your local pharmacy, up to $144 added back to your Social Security check every month. Call Go Medicare today to see if you are one of the over 12 million people that qualifies for these benefits. Call now at 800-838-1064. Call and benefits review are 100% free with no obligation to enroll. These benefits will make a difference in your health insurance coverage with additional benefits like dental, vision, and over-the-counter medications. Make Medicare and Medicaid work for you. Call Go Medicare today at 800-838-1064. That's 800-838-1064.
Just digging into some of the voter numbers from our voter analysis last night, which shows that the president made some progress with the Latino vote, where he managed to win about a third, and that helped him in places like Florida. Joining us now, Katie Pavlich, editor at townhall.com and Fox News contributor, Juan Williams, Fox News political analyst and co-host of The Five. Great to have both of you back with us this morning. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Juan, interesting to dig through these numbers and see where the president did make some gains among Hispanics, and in Texas as well as Florida and in other spots across the country, not simply the Cuban-American vote in Florida.
But it's in the Cuban-American vote that everyone's talking about this morning, Martha, because if you look at Miami-Dade, which is it's a blue area of Florida, what you see is that Cuban-Americans who had given about 60% of their vote to Hillary Clinton last time, this time around, they were up, the margin went about 10 points different, 10 points better for Donald Trump, and it made a big difference in overall count in the state of Florida, which, as you know, went to President Trump. I think if you look at it, you see that it's the men, the Latino men, who really gave a big boost to President Trump, and I think it has Democrats worried. Latinos are the fastest growing segment of the electorate, and given the president's, at times, harsh rhetoric about immigrants, in general, they're worried about what this means. You mentioned Texas, then you look north towards Nevada, and again, what you see is the president doing better with Latinos than Hillary Clinton did, and remember, Hillary Clinton didn't do as well as Barack Obama did back in 2012.
Katie, the black vote is roughly the same in these early votes, but back to the Hispanic vote for President Trump, the pitch about socialism and concern about socialism really seemed to hit home in a number of states and kind of move the needle, especially in some place like Florida, but also other states like Nevada.
Nevada, Texas, 7 of the most Hispanic counties in Texas. President Trump improved his margin by 20 points. In Texas, a number of those counties are right along the border with Mexico. In Florida, Brett, this is an issue that the Trump campaign has been working on since 2017. You'll remember President Trump went to Miami in June of 2017 and stood in a very hot, crowded room where the air conditioning broke and gave a speech about Cuban communism and socialism. He talked about dissidents who had been put in prison who made it to America, and he talked about human freedom. And when you look at the people who are organizing these Trump parades, these Trump rallies, these boat parades in Florida, it was the Cuban Americans and the Venezuelans who also were running away from that style of socialism, which is an interesting philosophy when you look at the way the left has gone, and you have a very far left flank of the party trying to declare victory last night, when the opposite is actually true when it comes to the number of House seats. There was a district in Miami that was flipped by a Republican woman, taken away from an incumbent Democrat down in Miami. And so the president's message on socialism resonated with the very people who have been impacted by these policies, who have family members who have suffered under them. And it certainly outweighs the argument from the left that the president is xenophobic or racist. They'd rather have their human freedom argument instead.
One, can you just talk broadly about what we're seeing here? Is this, I mean, it's clearly not what was seen going in. Is it a repudiation of Democrats in some way that it's turning out this tight, nowhere near what the polls said going in? How do you see it?
Well, I think for Democrats, it is a chastening moment. I mean, it's one of these mornings you wake up and you shake your head, right? Because so many of the Democrats, I think, thought that there was the possibility of a blue wave last night, but they also realized that it could be very close. They didn't expect that it would be necessarily easy, but I'm saying at the fringes of possibilities, both existed, including that blue wave. You wake up this morning and you think, wow, are people out of touch? Because what Democrats see is a presidency that's been divisive, chaotic at times. If we were just talking about the Latino community, we know about the president's harsh rhetoric with regard to immigrants. And people are thinking, well, why is that? How can they just vote for Donald Trump? They don't understand it. And I think there's going to have to be a lot of sort of not necessarily retrospective analysis, but I think prospective in the sense that figuring out who are your voters and why is it that the other team somehow gets their folks out with such passion. I think Democrats see this as politics. Maybe Republicans see it as something else.
Juan, just staying with you for a minute, you know, there's also been the criticism that perhaps it's the media that just doesn't get it, where people are in the United States and what they care about. We're seeing that in the Hispanic vote, family values and Christianity and a number of things along those lines are very foundational to their culture, and that is what we're seeing picked up here. And we have seen in many ways sort of an ignoring of some of those facts in some quarters in political punditry in recent years, to be sure.
I see your point, Martha. I mean, I would say that, you know, as I listened to you, I was thinking about the evangelical vote, very strong in the South. And again, back to the Latinos, you know, you have a lot of Latino evangelicals. But my thought is that it's not that people would look at someone like Joe Biden and think he's not a family person. It's not that you would look across the board and say that Democrats aren't concerned with union workers. Historically, they've been very concerned. I think that from the Democrats' point of view, there are lots of questions about race. I think there's lots of questions about the very image of Donald Trump, the kind of masculine, macho image and how it plays. And the Democrats need to plug in, if you will, tap into the emotional quotient that's such a power for Trump.
Yeah, stand by, everybody. The Michigan Secretary of State, Jocelyn Benson, has just started this virtual press conference. Let's listen in.
The election clerks throughout the state of Michigan and I called on our state legislature to update our laws to provide time for pre-processing of ballots that were on par with many other states, like our neighbors in Ohio, who were able to count the vast majority of their ballots yesterday. Now, our state legislature chose not to make that change to our laws, and here we are in Michigan, where our counting process is continuing long after the polls have closed. But rest assured, we're focused on counting every single ballot. That's our focus. Every single ballot in Michigan will be counted. And importantly, also, right now, there are tens of thousands of ballots that still need to be counted. And jurisdictions have been reporting throughout the morning, as many of you know and have been following. But the information I have is that ballots are still being counted in our largest jurisdictions, including Detroit, Grand Rapids, Flint, Kalamazoo, and numerous other Michigan cities and townships. Now, these ballots were cast by tens of thousands of Michigan citizens who have the right to have their vote counted. And we're going to make sure that right is protected. We're going to ensure that the results of our elections accurately reflect every single valid vote that was cast. And this is particularly important in close races, as the numbers of outstanding ballots is still greater than the margin of difference between many races with leading candidates. So at this point, I ask for patience out of respect to the will of our voters and the work of our election workers who are volunteering in communities all across the state to serve the public and are committed to ensuring an accurate count. Now, I continue to expect, though I had for weeks said we expect results to be in by Friday. We're still certainly on track for that. But as I've also mentioned recently, we are on track to have our results in much sooner. I'll continue to expect that we'll have more information throughout the day. And as I mentioned last night, I'm optimistic that by the end of the day, the majority of our ballots will be tabulated and will be much closer to having a full, if not a full and complete unofficial result to announce at that point. But I also want to mention that yesterday in our elections, one of the best stories was how smoothly everything went. Voters were able to vote. There were minimal lines throughout the state, with the exception of sometimes when a lot of voters showed up all at the same time. So it's great to see the process working. It's great to see that throughout this election, more citizens voted in Michigan than ever before. It's great to see that more citizens, 2/3 of the electorate, voted absentee than ever before. And it's really encouraging to see that yesterday, throughout the day, over 28,000 eligible citizens registered and voted on Election Day. The vast majority of those were young voters under the age of 30. So it's a great story coming out of Michigan today. It's a story that's a reflection of people in every community rising up to ensure their votes are counted and their voices are heard. And now our job is to make sure we do right by them and make sure we do count every valid vote so that their voices can be heard. So I also call on everyone who's watching this election, everyone who is on the ballot in this election, to join us in respecting the work of our election workers here in the state of Michigan, respecting the voters and the clerks who have together worked to ensure that we are seeing this high level of participation all across the state. As results come in, there may indeed be ways to determine the winners in statewide and other races. But again, I would ask that those determinations be made on actual data and vote counts, which I am committed to providing as transparently as possible as the hours continue. So with that, I'm happy to take questions. Apologize again for the technical glitches and difficulties today. And we'll continue to, throughout the day, provide you with updates in a smoother process than this one. Thanks. Please raise your electronic hand if you have a question to pose to us today.
Good morning, Secretary Benson.
All right, we'll listen into those questions, the Q&A. I don't have an electronic hand to raise. I can't raise it, but you hear the Secretary of State there from Michigan, Jocelyn Benson. We also will hear from the Secretary of State of Georgia in a little bit. Let's bring in now Andy McCarthy, former Assistant U.S. Attorney, Fox News contributor, and Jonathan Turley, law professor, Fox News contributor. Gentlemen, good morning. A few hours after we talked to you last, thank you very much, because what you told us last night really was spot on about what we're potentially facing going in here. Jonathan, I want to get into what could the legal challenge be. As you listen to the Michigan Secretary of State, they're talking about absentee ballots. Pennsylvania, each state handles things differently. But from the Trump campaign's perspective, what potentially could they go after? How the absentee ballots were handled, the matching of signatures, that sort of thing?
Well, before the election, I identified 3 states that I was going to focus on, and that was Nevada, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. And that was largely because of 3 factors. They had all made changes to some extent in their election practices or laws. They were expected to be very, very close. And they were also dealing with unprecedented numbers of new forms of balloting, like mail-in balloting. It's not that mail-in balloting didn't exist before, just
Jonathan,
not to
I'm just going to interrupt you real quick. The Secretary of State of Georgia, let's dip in and listen.
Our election team, we'll get that out as soon as we have that information.
There's a word that USPS was supposed to do a sweep of their facilities, make sure all the absentee ballots had been delivered, and that in some places that didn't take place. Do you know if that happened here in Georgia? Is that in concern?
Well, it will always be a concern. We want to make sure everything gets to us don't have anything specific on that. But that's why we also instituted the absentee ballot drop boxes. Our concern actually was that voters were way too long and then it'd be too late to mail, and that's why we had the absentee ballot drop boxes, which was very well received by voters in Georgia.
So you don't have the word that took place in this?
Yeah, I don't have anything specific, but as soon as we do, we'll circle back and get that information out.
Can I take a quick follow-up about...
Can I get with this man? Well, it's several counties, but we know that DeKalb, Fulton, Forsyth, even have 7,000 voters. So it's really, it's something, when you have such a large number of absentee voters, and then you have some early votes, it's really multiple counties, and we're just knocking those down one at a time.
To the process of absentee ballots, I know this the timing kind of a moving target. First, you want to put that moving today. But for those who may be wondering why they're not done, the delay, the difficulty of absentee ballots.
So the state election board gave the counties the authority that they could begin the process of scanning the absentee ballots, which is very helpful. So I know that down in Muskogee County and Richmond County, they were really current with everything they had received, but then all of a sudden we also had additional ballots come in on Monday and then Tuesdays, so they're being dropped in. So they had to scan those. And so they'll be getting that as soon as they can, but it is a 2-page ballot. It just takes longer to get those ready for the scanning process. Is there another question back there? Well, I know that right now that we have, my numbers here were 52 to 54,000 in DeKalb. Right now we have 74,000 approximately Fulton County absentees and 43,000 early votes in Fulton County. And I have about 7,000 right now in Forsyth. We can get you the entire list because it's just we make sure we include all the counties.
What's the next part before we can say?
Well, the next process obviously will be make sure we get all the ballots counted, then also the UOCAVA, the overseas military ballots, to get those in and have them incorporated in the vote totals. We're going to begin the risk limiting audit process later this week, which is really important. So many people are not aware of that. This is the first time we're doing a statewide audit. And so what that will really give you, first of all, we have, I think, a higher confidence of voters. I know there's a lot of information out there, a lot of misinformation out there, and some of it's just lack of knowledge, and we understand that. And that's why the risk limiting audit, what that will do, will verify results. So if there's a race that was, say, reported a 51-49, when we do the audit, then we can verify what the result is, and we have over a 90% confidence level. That gives people additional assurance. I think also having that paper ballot, voters are very comfortable. It just gave them that comfort feeling. They looked at it before they cast their ballot, and that's a good thing also. Then by Friday, November 13th, we then will have the certification. So nothing is certified until after we do the risk limiting audit. Well, if there's a race that was in 0.5%, it is your right as the candidate that is close but not over the top, then you could ask for a recount. So we actually could have a request for, say, a state representative, county commission race, or any race that's within 0.5%. And we'll just wait to get every ballot counted, and that's why it's very important to follow through the process. It'll be actually pulling out, running those through, and then it'll be actually seeing where that brings us, and then looking at the words that are on the ballot at some point.
Now?
Well, if they do, then they'll follow through that. That's the advantage of having a verifiable paper ballot. And you can rescan that, but that's why if some of the ballots you kick out. And the reason they kick out is everyone, they don't fill out the ballot correctly, or they put it actually, they circle a name. That's why we have the adjudication panels, the Republican, Democrat, and then the election official. We have 3 sets of eyes on that to verify that. So we want at least a 2-1 adjudication vote on each ballot, so we can make sure we capture it and get the right number of intent.
your office at the state get those ballots against legal challenge?
Yeah, we want to make sure that we follow state law. We are always going to look at what is the state law, and that's why Ryan Germany, our legal counsel, can answer any legal questions you have. We want to make sure the law is very clear and we follow the state law. We don't believe that judges should legislate.
Quick assessment from you of the timing.
Oh no, it's really quick, much quicker, and that's why we're really pleased with the state election board allowing us to scan that. If you look at some of these states, this morning is when they actually opened up the absentee ballot boxes, and that's when they started actually the process of separating out the absentee ballots. That's a very extensive process, verifying the signature and going through there, separating it out. We have saved days and days. You're going to be waiting a long time.